man. So you guys are in for a treat today. I'm living every guy's fantasy, a threesome with two other guys. Keaton's having some technical difficulties, but I got longtime guest and fan favorite Keas, the K and the Backtalk Brothers. What's up, man?
Hey, Dan, I don't know about fan favorite, but I'll take it.
I think you're a fan favorite. I get a lot of questions about you. And Keas also asked, I finished my last lines. I am pretty jacked up. And
it's just coffee, though, right?
It's just coffee today. I had an energy drink earlier. I was stuck in rush hour traffic here, which I have not gotten used to. Apparently from 3 to 6, it is impossible to drive anywhere in Las Vegas. Did you know it is a law that if you're from California, you cannot drive? I did not know that. If you use a turn signal, apparently it's some sort of fine or issue. I'm not exactly sure how that is. Keaton Talk Sports is on. Me and him are on Instagram. He's having some technical difficulties, but hopefully he should be joining us soon. Keas, since you're a fan favorite here, everybody pretty much knows who you are. But for those of you who don't, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I am the K and Backtalk Bros, and I used to be with RGR Football, yeah, we've been doing that for a couple of years. Met Dan through RGR Football, and here we are.
Yeah, and you go live. You still going live at 7:30 Central?
We try to do it every Wednesday night. I'm not sure how much that's going to be possible during the off season, especially the next month and a half or so with flag football. I'm coaching kindergarten and first grade. I got voluntold for that, and it's like herding cats. But then I have other boys that are in other grade divisions and teams. So basically every night, every week we have practice. So, or one of the boys has practice at least, or a game.
Yeah, so I'm kind of picturing something like the Buddy Ryan 46 defense is kind of what I'm picturing. So that is kind of what we're getting from the kindergarten to first graders.
It's 7-on-7, but in my head, I'm toying around with a 2-5 and a 3-3-3-1. So we'll see. 5-2, 2-5, and 3-3-1 is kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, hopefully it can work out. I'm messaging Keaton here. He's not. He's having all sorts of technical difficulties today. He mentioned something about OnlyFans messing up his laptop, so he may or may not be joining us. Hopefully he can, because I really want to hear what he has to say. Let's do this here. There was some free agent news today, and I kind of wanted to start that off anyway. Mike Williams signs with the Jets. I haven't had a chance to go over the contract details, all the specifics, but let's just focus on 2024. What does this mean for the Jets? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the only thing I saw was up to $15 million, so I'm assuming a fairly incentivized deal, right? That's my assumption. Which, depending on what the base is, makes sense. If it's around, I don't even know if you can say around Hollywood Brown, right? Because Williams played how many games last year? Like it was only like 3 or 4. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to say it was 6. I don't have the numbers up, but he's been. I mean, when he plays, he's an excellent receiver. I was a big fan of him coming out of Clemson, but
right.
I mean, injury riddled, talented.
He can catch everything, and I'm happy he's gone from the Chargers because Justin Herbert was protected by 2 really awesome wide receivers. So now we're going to get to see what he does without 2 guys that, like Mike Williams, you could just throw up basically anything and he was going to catch it. Like if he didn't catch it, it was a terribly thrown ball to begin with.
Oh, I agree completely. And We're in luck, man. I got the third here of my threesome. Keaton with Keaton
Going
Talks,
on?
man. How are you doing, man?
Pretty good. How you guys doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. But so we wanted to I wanted to kick this off before we go into our dueling mock drafts and talk about the draft. I want to talk about some free agent news that had happened today. Mike Williams signed with the Jets. Keas gave me some information here. It's a $15 million incentive-laden deal. At least that's what it sounds like. What are your thoughts on this? And does that make what is your opinion of the Jets now?
Shoot, I mean, they're getting better. I mean, they're definitely a lot better than what they were last year. I know, like, during the season, they didn't really have their quarterback. Obviously, Rodgers was hurt for most of the season, so they weren't able to, like, produce much on offensively. But, I mean, like, this move, obviously, I mean, they're looking like a team that's going all in, knowing that Rodgers has, like, a couple years left on his deal, I believe. I don't know if it's, like, 2 or 3 years or whatever. But, I mean, looking at the Jets right now, I mean, they're definitely a team that's, my opinion, I think they can win the AFC East next year. They can knock off Buffalo. I don't know about the Chiefs, though, because, like I said, they're the Chiefs, and we'll have to see what Rodgers, if he stays healthy or not. But, I mean, they're definitely put themselves in the conversation to not just win the division, but put themselves in potential Super Bowl conversations. So, yeah, but I like this movement. They're definitely getting better during the offseason. So.
Well, I like the move also. So, Keys, I want to hear your response here. Keaton says that the Jets are now in great position to knock off and to beat Kansas City and are the Super Bowl favorites. I'm exaggerating a little bit.
I ain't going that far yet, but
let me ask you this. Are the Jets a Super Bowl contender? Because I think it's fair to call them an AFC East. I mean, maybe not the favorite, but I mean, they're definitely one or two. I think Buffalo, I mean, they lost 5 or 6 starters in free agency.
Yeah, they lost a lot on the especially on the defensive side, for sure.
Yeah,
Boyer and all that stuff, yeah.
So I mean, Keys, is this the AFC East favorite? Are they a Super Bowl contender?
I think it's going to be hard. It's between. I think it's a lot easier to say it's between the Bills and the Jets, especially if Rodgers can stay healthy. And we don't know, right? Rodgers could throw a pass to Mike Williams in game 3 and they could both be out for the whole season. Like,
yeah, that's kind of $1 million. I mean, if these guys stay healthy, watch out, but are they going to?
And that's the thing too. Say health is going to be the major thing. Like, if Aaron Rodgers is out, I mean, their team they're not going to do nothing. I mean, that's just, I mean, he means everything to that team. So, I mean, plus they brought in Tyrod Taylor, who's also been dealing with injuries himself throughout his career. So, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but I mean, like I said, they have got better. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If you told me let's just got rid of Aaron Rodgers, you told me Tyrod Taylor's going to quarterback this Jets team. You add Mike Williams, you have Breece Hall, and then one thing we do agree upon is that the Jets are probably going offensive line in this draft. I mean, I think you could win 10 wins just with Tyrod Taylor. Am I crazy? I mean, the great defense, Breece Hall, the offensive line getting fixed. They added Tyron Smith and traded for Morgan Moses. I mean, they can win 10 with Tyrod Taylor, or am I nuts?
Well, they won 7 last year, so
yeah. I mean, he's in. I mean, say he has pieces around him now. It's not like if you asked me that last year, no, that would have been crazy. But he has the pieces now around him to.
I mean, you got some issues. You got some major improvements on the offensive line, but the funny thing is Moses has missed some time with injury. Tyron Smith, the most he's played in I looked it up, like the last 5 years was like 12 games or something like that. He's just guy can't stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's an excellent player. Slasher says, "What's up, Dan? What would you change in your mock draft now that the Bears traded Justin Fields to the Steelers?" So, Slasher, in the description below, I made my mock draft. I released it Monday. I did it with trades. This is a true story. I was about halfway through my mock draft, and then I was like, well, let's see what happened And I saw Justin Fields got traded to the Steelers, and I just had to start over from scratch Saturday. So pissed because I've been saying for months, I was actually going to do the intro. I didn't have enough time to switch it. I was going to do the intro where I say Justin Fields is going to be a starting quarterback for the Bears, and then have the thing because I paid for it here a few minutes later, and then I was going, but I didn't have time to do that. So, yeah, Slasher, I look like a big asshole. I get that. And I've been saying Justin Fields is going to. And by the way, I do want to talk about this. Matter of fact, we'll skip the other three big free agent signings, and we'll talk about Justin Fields to the Steelers because I really want to get their opinions, my guests' opinions on this trade because, well, you know what? I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. So I'm going to start off with Keaton here. Keaton, unlike myself, you had 4 mock drafts. All 4 of them had Caleb Williams to the Bears. Unlike me, who's been saying that he's going to stay in Chicago. You obviously are not surprised about this, but what are your thoughts? Justin Fields now in Pittsburgh.
I mean, like I said, I mean, this he gets another opportunity elsewhere. Obviously, I mean, the Bears have been looking to get Caleb Williams for months now. I know some Bears fans obviously have had their differences with keeping Justin Fields as their quarterback. I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like last year, I thought he played well towards the end of the year, and I thought he was gonna put himself in position to stay in Chicago. But I mean, him in Pittsburgh. I mean, I like the move. That was one of my free agent destinations I thought he would go to if he were to get traded from Chicago. I know he's the backup as of now, but I mean, like I said, there's no promises that Wilson's gonna, if he ends up not playing well, I mean, Fields can step in right away, and he has talent all around him now, including the free agent signings they just got. I know they got Patrick Queen this offseason. So I mean, their defense is legit. I mean, they have also pieces offensively. So, I mean, I think he can thrive in Pittsburgh. I think he's in the right situation, in my opinion. And the fact that Pittsburgh only traded, or not trade, but they got him for a 6th rounder is kind of crazy. But that's because the market. I mean, he didn't really have much of a market. So, but I mean, I think it's the right situation for him.
All right. So let me ask you this here. What's another team that he could have gone to though?
At first, I thought thought he was going to go to Atlanta at first because I didn't know because. Like, it's crazy because, like, I know people saying Kirk Cousins was linked to go down, but I was like, there's no way Kirk Cousins goes down. And I was like, I can't see him in Atlanta. I thought Justin Fields in Atlanta just makes too much sense, but with the talent they have down there. But I know New England obviously was in there too, but I was like, I don't know if that really makes sense, especially the position that they're in right now in the draft.
You're a Patriots fan, right? How happy would you have been if New England gave up a 6 and got Justin Fields?
I mean, it would have been an upgrade for sure. I mean, for what we have on the roster. I mean, Mac Jones obviously has been our guy for the last few years and just hasn't really worked out. I mean, I would love to have Justin Fields. I mean, just the type of quarterback he is and the way he plays and stuff like that. We didn't really have a mobile quarterback really, so I'm hoping we hit on that in the draft this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here later on tonight. But Keas, Justin Fields in Pittsburgh for a 6, it could be a 4th. Man, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, honestly, I'm all over the place on it. I personally didn't see it coming, especially after the Russell Wilson thing. The reports where Russ was basically told he would be the starter and wouldn't have to compete. And so, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of weird, right? Because are we saying that Justin Fields is going to have a whole year where he does nothing? Some of the stories that came out about Russ in Denver, I'm not sure, even if you like Justin Fields moving forward, if you're a team, do you want him to be around Russ? And I'm not trying to, character assassinate. I'm just going off of what the reports were the last couple of years, everything that trickled out, and of course that's controlled by, the Denver Broncos. But I don't know. It's hard for me because the best you can get is a sixth, maybe a fourth, right? You're not getting the fourth if Russ is the starter. And so basically no one else in the NFL really saw much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so what do you want him for? You know what I mean? Like just a cost controlled backup, you know, because then it's just going to matter. Like, what is he going to be a scout team? Is that basically his value to the Steelers to be like a scout team guy? Because like I would get that, you know, if he's going to be your Lamar Jackson for your scout team, you know, I understand that. If he's going to be your Deshaun Watson, since they're in that same division for your scout team, I get that. But outside of that, you know, like what is their picture for him, and what would any teams be? So, you know, that's what I keep asking myself, and I'm not sure I have the answer.
No, I thought it was a great explanation. You know, I just remember, I'll be honest with you, when I heard about this trade, I went back to Trey Smith going to Dallas for a 4th round pick. And I was like, well, what did I see out of Trey Smith? Well, I saw he broke his ankle, but he was a 4th round pick. Justin Fields played well, and he's a 6th. Yeah, Ryan Poles better have a good year, because all I kept on hearing is that, well, Ryan Poles did something good for Justin Fields. Well, great. And in about what I'm going to say, about 10 months from now, when you're unemployed because you're going to get fired for this stupid decision to give up your starting quarterback for Caleb Williams, who I'm not that high on, but we'll talk about that here in a bit. That was my first reaction. I think Ryan Poles is going to get fired. Trey Smith got a 4th. Justin Fields is a 6th. That doesn't seem right at all. So things better work out in Chicago, because I think Ryan Poles,
right?
Yeah, he's going to be.
Yeah.
Chief Super Dub says, "Yo, what's up, brother?" Slasher says, "I thought Atlanta too to Kirk Cousins' contract is crazy. It's going to backfire on them. You know, they kind of." I mean, he's got to be healthy. I'll be honest with you. I would have liked Justin Fields as the starter in Pittsburgh or Atlanta a lot better than being the backup. To me, it would make so much more sense. I mean, he really played well. He's got talent. Put him in Atlanta and have some fun. I didn't see an issue with that. As far as the contract, it's got to work, man. And the only way it works is if Atlanta gets – I think they have to get past the divisional round. I think they actually have to win a game in the playoffs for it to be fair, you know?
Yeah. That's the thing, too. It's like I look at, like you said, Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Like I thought those two would have flipped. I thought Kirk Cousins would have been a good fit in Pittsburgh, knowing like Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Justin Fields to Atlanta, like
I agree. I thought that made a lot more sense. I remember Russell Wilson when he was like, I was like, is him and Tomlin really going to get along? Because I was thinking he might be a better fit for what Brian Dable wants to do in New York. But that's kind of I'm going all over the place here. Keas. What are your thoughts on Hollywood Brown signing a 1-year deal with the Chiefs?
Hey, listen, as a Chiefs fan, I love it. Like, why would I not love it, right? If you're Hollywood, you know, I can see when you're looking around at other wide receivers who are getting 2-3 year deals right now. But I think the bigger thing is you let these guys raise the market for mid-tier wide receivers, right? You give yourself a chance to win a ring, and you reestablish your value next year when the cap is expected to jump another 20-30 million again. And you're going to be negotiating off of this year's offseason mid-tier wide receiver contracts, maybe more if you go out and prove it. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
No, I think you left some money on the table, but I don't want to put words in Keaton's mouth. Keaton, man, you're with a couple of Chiefs fans here, so bear with us here. You know, I mean, you remember that you're a Patriots fan. You know what it's like back a long time ago when you won back-to-back Super Bowls and you had the best quarterback in football and a great defense and a Hall of Fame head coach. You know that feeling. You know where we're at.
Yeah.
What are
for
your
sure.
thoughts here, man? Hollywood Brown into Kansas City, man. You're excited about that.
I mean, like I said, I mean, I've been saying all along the Chiefs needed a receiver help. I mean, I know was it Tony? What's his first name?
Cardarius
Yes,
Tony.
Kadarius Toney. No, he's had a bunch of drops last year. I know Chiefs fans are like, we got to address this position. I mean, you got him on the 1-year deal, so it's kind of like a win-win situation. You didn't really have to overpay to get him. So I mean, he decided to take less to go play with Patrick Mahomes and try to win the Super Bowl. So I mean, win-win for him and win-win for the Chiefs.
Well,
and it's an upgrade.
One thing both of you guys have said, and I thought it was really key, is he left money on the table. I think Hollywood Brown could have gotten a lot more money elsewhere. Yeah, Keas says from a non-head coach fit, Denver would have been my perfect spot. Cheap, you're trying to tank, either Fields crashes and burns, and you tank, or I could almost say the same thing about here in Vegas. Dan's 2024 big betting tip is Cardarius Tony.
Is he still going to be on the roster going to 2024?
I will though. I don't think I
don't know.
think he's not going to be. I really don't think so. I really think so.
He's still on there now.
Yeah.
If you cut him, it's $2.5 million in dead cap with no savings. So, I don't think, unless they know for sure, they have his replacement already on the roster, whether that's, after draft, UDFA, whatever, because if you cut him and you have to replace his roster spot, you're looking at $3.5 million in net loss by the time you have that $2.5 million dead cap, plus you pay a guy to take his spot. So I think there's a good chance he is, or they just wait for him to screw up to where they can void his contract.
Yeah, I seriously, I remember
which could happen.
Florida. I remember him coming out of Florida. I think there is a possible trade market. It wouldn't surprise me if a team offered a 6th or 7th, and Kansas City said, "Yeah, let's pull the trigger." Perry says, "Hey, Dan, Keas, Keaton, how are you guys doing today? I am fantastic. I am living every guy's dream, a threesome with 2 other guys. I know that's how Keas feels. Keaton's excited about it. So yeah." Perry says, "What do you think, Kevin Ziegler, offensive guard we signed? What do you think of the signing?" I kind of want to interject, but let me be a gracious guest here. Keas, your Lions here signed Kevin Ziegler, offensive guard. I'm gonna keep calling them your Lions because you've just been I've been gushing about them too. I love their offseason, but put words in your mouth here. What do you think of this signing?
Yeah, hey. I mean, I like it because it makes the Ravens weaker and gives them a position of need. But, for the Lions, I know the Lions fans are thrilled for it. I mean, what can you say? They've made a lot of good moves so far. There's a few teams out there following that same kind of playbook, right? You fill your roster with guys so you don't have to reach to fill needs in the draft. And then you let guys compete. When you let your draft board come to you.
That was great. Keaton, you have anything to add on to that? Or do you just hate this signing? Kevin Ziegler, offensive guard, going to Detroit. Me and Keas have been kind of high on Detroit's offseason, man. Are you joining us here?
I mean, I think it's a good signing. I mean, like I said, looking at their offense last year, they were up there, one of the best in the league. I know the defense was the complete opposite of that, but it adds more protection for golf and gives him more time to read his targets and throw the ball down the field, all that stuff. So, I like the signing. I think it's a solid pickup. Keeps them on top of in that division, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Perry asks, does he have anything left in the tank? I don't think it really matters because they didn't give him an arm and a leg. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I want to say Andrew Voorhees. He would have been a 2nd-round pick 2 years ago. If I'm correct, he tore his ACL on the USC Pro Day, so he slipped all the way down to the 6th because he wasn't going to play. And then I think he was activated late in the season. I don't think he played in the playoff games at all, but he's going to replace Ziegler, 6th-round pick. Baltimore's done a fantastic job in the draft over the last couple of years. So I'll be honest with you, with Detroit, I don't think it matters. It's a cheap signing who could be a starter and if nothing else, just valuable depth and experience on that offensive line.
Right.
We talked about Hollywood Brown leaving money on the table, so I want to touch base on something that kind of floored me. The Browns signed Jerry Jeudy to a 3-year, $58 million extension today. Keas, I think I was higher on him than you were as a Bronco, because he was my number one receiver. He was above Ruggs. He was above CeeDee Lamb. I just thought it was more of a coaching quarterback issue. Man, Keys, what are your thoughts? Jerry Jeudy getting 3 years, 58, Hollywood Brown 1 year, 11.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. But the biggest difference is, one of the differences is, right, this was a trade, and so you make the trade, you got to pay the guy is kind of the big thing, right? But again, I think it's different in that at least part of Hollywood's consideration, I think, is a ring. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's part of his consideration is a ring. At the very least, what better team to showcase yourself for next year than a team that's probably going to have the most primetime games? You got to figure there's a great chance that you're going to be playing deep into the playoffs. And so, I think they're a little bit different situations, and that's not to dog Cleveland, but, even the quarterback situation in Cleveland's a little shaky. As far as the money, though, I mean, I was going to jokingly say who. Obviously, as Chiefs fans, we know who Jerry Jeudy is, right? But I mean, you're clearly, I think you're paying for, it's the talent you still see there. Cleveland has a big analytics department, so I'm sure that those guys are telling them, this is a guy that we believe in our system, best utilized, will be worth the money.
Man, that was fantastic. Keaton, man, I'll put you in a bad spot here. You got to follow that up, man. I mean, what are your thoughts? Jerry Jeudy, $58 million to Cleveland, man. Now, you were saying you think that this puts the Browns as now the Super Bowl favorite, right?
Oh, no. Never do that. But, I mean, to answer your question, I know he's been facing a lot of criticism, knowing like people question whether if he's like a tier 1 receiver, if he's like a tier 2 or 3, but Cleveland, I think getting that money, I think, okay, now he's got my opinion, he's got to go out and ball now, because I don't think he got that fair shot at Denver, in my opinion, especially like you mentioned earlier with the coach and the player coming together. I don't think they really got along well. Kind of the same thing with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Now he's in Cleveland now, like you said, about the quarterback situation is kind of iffy. I know Deshaun Watson got traded. I forgot where he went to. He went somewhere.
Deshaun Watson's right there in Cleveland. So
not Deshaun Watson. I must be talking about someone. Okay, never mind. But that's okay. I'm talking about the quarterback for the Saints, the backup. That's someone else. But anyway,
Winston.
Winston. Okay, I don't know why I thought Winston was on the team.
No. You got it right, because Winston's signed with the Browns. He's their
Browns,
backup.
yeah.
And then the Browns also, for some weird reason, also signed Tyler Huntley, who was. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. I'll be honest, Cleveland's kind of a strange team, but I mean, they're signing all sorts of quarterbacks. They're trading for receivers.
Again, I don't know what type of direction they're.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say if Huntley, is your scout team for guys like Lamar, right? Because when Lamar got hurt a year ago, Tyler went right in that offense, and it didn't really miss a beat. So if Tyler ends up being your scout team guy to give that defense better looks for Lamar, I think it makes sense.
Well, I mean, I was really high on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I remember he was the star of the preseason, and then he got elevated to second string, and I thought he played really well, but for some reason or another, Cleveland wasn't happy with him. Joe Flacco played really well. Yeah, Perry. I think all of us think that Jerry Jeudy. It's a lot of money. I mean, I loved him coming out of Alabama. I mean, I really did. Alabama had this streak. It was 31 minutes into a show. I already forgot a name here. Going into the Hall of Fame, mostly played with the Falcons.
Michael. No, you talking about? I have no idea.
Receiver.
Yeah, receiver. Number 11, Julio Jones.
Julio Jones.
Yeah,
Julio Jones. Okay.
Yeah. So Alabama had Julio Jones, then Amari Cooper, who's there. Then so for a while, Alabama was like wide receiver U. Now it's LSU, but you got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who they got from Ole Miss. Well, actually, they got in a trade from the Jets, part of that Aaron Rodgers compensation, and Njoku. They drafted David Bell, the guy I really loved out of Purdue. They picked up James Prochet, a guy I also really loved out of SMU. Now they get Jerry Jeudy, and I mean, you got some weapons there, man. I mean, it's kind of. I'll be honest. I just saw this right before I came on the air, a 3-year, $58 million deal. And as much as I love Jerry Jeudy, I remember thinking last year when Christian Kirk signed that 4-year, $80 million deal, like, oh, this is going to blow up in Jacksonville's face. They overpaid, and it worked. He had a great year. He was their number one receiver. But wow. Perry says, why do you think the Browns pay that? But that's good for Kansas City and the Pats, less money for them to spend. I'll be honest with you. I don't really get it. They had some other players. You got a number one already. Elijah Moore is a guy I was really high on. You have Njoku. You're getting Chubb back. I'm at a loss. One other. So speaking of being at a loss, I want to go over the other news that is Chase Young signed a 1-year deal with the Saints. A 1 year, it looks like $13 million guaranteed. I'm surprised about the money. It's now reported he's going to have a neck procedure. He's going to miss part of training camp, but he should be okay for the start of the season. Keaton, man, Chase Young to the Saints. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's good for the Saints. I mean, in my opinion, just because, like, if you look at their defense, like, they have a lot of players who are getting up there in age. You know, I think getting a young player like Chase Young can bring another demeanor to that defense. Now, I know Chase Young has been taking a lot of heat in terms of him not giving his all on every play, him taking plays off and here and there. But, like, I think, like, if he's there, I think if you can get someone like a Jared Verse to pair with him, like I said, they do need to get younger on that side of the ball. So, like, in my opinion, I think it's an upgrade for that Saints defense. The only question is can they get more production offensively? Has yet to be seen. But I do like the fit. I think it's a good fit, in my opinion, for the Saints. I mean, I didn't see whether a team would really want him for his value. So I think they went all in and got him and then, like I said, another win-win situation. It's a 1-year deal. You didn't really have to overpay to have him on your team. So
man, Keas, what are your thoughts, man? Two questions here. Number one, does the neck injury, missing part of training camp, maybe part of season bother you? $13 million on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, obviously you're making this signing and you know it, right? It's not like you made the signing and then it comes out, or, you know, it comes out and, I mean, whether it comes out and then you sign him or you sign him already knowing it, it doesn't really matter. I think that, you know, again, we're talking about a guy who went what? He was first overall, second overall?
Second.
You know, and
second,
it's hard for GMs, you know, when you see a high upside, it's hard for GMs to, you know, like to lower that in their mind. You know, after a few years, you start making some excuses, you know, this guy's been injured or, you know, whatever the case was, you know. And so, again, I think 1 year, you know, it eliminates a lot of the risk. And, you know, as a guy coming off of the injuries and all of that, you already know yourself, what's going to be used against you. So, why not go out? And again, I keep saying it, but next year the salary cap's going to jump up even more, right? And so why not? Why not wait a year, to cash in on it?
I'm gonna level with you. I was floored that he got 13 million, and now I'm finding out he's going to miss part of training camp. I'm kind of shaking my head, but that was a great point, because I remember when he came out, I was thinking, if you're Cincinnati, I would have taken Chase Young instead of Burrow, and I would have been wrong. And then the year number one, he looked amazing, and he hasn't been able to produce that or reproduce that. So look at this, what we have here. We have the great one, the talent, the B in the Backtalk brothers. Gooch.
What's good? What's up? What's up?
Dan, I told you like his three threesomes includes.
What?
Oh man. So luckily it's 18 and above is the rating for this show. Yeah, I know. Keaton. Did you know it was going to get like this? Did you know?
It came out of nowhere.
I mean, Keaton, I think it's like your fourth time coming on, so now we getting you into this. By the way, I've never been invited on Keaton's show. I'm just going to throw that out there. I've had him on like 4 times. I've never been invited on here, so I'll throw that out there, Keaton.
Invite you one day. I'll throw it out there.
It used to be Betty White.
That's true.
Big up, Mandum. Gwenwill. I am going to butcher that. Bollandrees. And that's just awesome. I don't recognize the name, Dan, so hopefully it's somebody new. The final big free agent news that we have, and I'm going to say big as a pun, Trent Brown joins the Bengals for 700 pounds of fun on the outside. Keas, he teams with probably your favorite non-Chief player in Orlando Brown Jr.
Who?
As the biggest tackle duo in the NFL. What are your thoughts here?
Who? Oh, concrete block feet. All right, I gotcha. The funny thing is that's a lot of Brown between the two of them. It could work. It almost makes it seem more like they want to become a power running team, which which kind of makes sense. I don't want to say a lot of the NFL, but that seems to be like the direction NFL offenses are going to take in reaction to the way defenses have been playing the last few years, right? It started mainly with Mahomes, and it was like Mahomes and Burrow and a couple other quarterbacks. And now it's basically every quarterback's being played that way. So it's, I think we're going to see some resurgent to the running game to start punishing NFL defenses for saying, hey, take what you want in the run game. We're not going to let you have anything in the pass, because this last year was like one of the lowest probably in 2 decades as far as like NFL offensive output. So I guess that kind of makes sense in a way, because if they pass, it seems kind of scary in a division with Myles Garrett, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt. You start looking at all these guys, and that's just in their division, right? Like anybody with, hell, you could give me some pads and put me out there, and I could do some speed moves against those guys. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a little scary there, and especially when you consider, what did we see this offseason? What did Kansas City do a few years ago? What have we seen this offseason? What would we probably see out of Bill Belichick if he was coaching a team right now, right? The interior offensive line is where teams are going. Interior defense, interior offense. So it's like, I don't know that you've really shored up the passing game. So is it the running game they're going after?
That's actually a great point here. I want to dive into that, but I want to give Keaton a chance here, man.
Was a former Patriot, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he was in New England for a long time. I mean, you kind of got a better feel on him. I'd kind of like to know what's your opinion of him as a player. What's your opinion of him signing with the Bengals? How big of a move is this?
It's a big.
I mean,
move.
like I said,
who said that 400 pounds. Sorry.
Yeah. No worry. It is like I said, it is a big move. Like I said, I mean, I've been saying all along, like something the Bengals have struggled with is the offensive line. Like you saw last year, Burrow took another hit and was out for the season. Same thing happened in his rookie year. Got hit or got sacked or whatever. Was it ACL? He tore his ACL his rookie year, I believe, right?
Yeah, he tore. Yeah, he's
or something like that.
5 years, he's had 3 seasons with season-ending injuries. So I mean,
yeah.
You know better than me and
yeah.
Keas. One of your guys. Is this a?
Yeah.
Reports are kind of all over the place. Is he a Pro Bowl right tackle? Is he okay?
I mean, I think he's he's not the best tackle, but he's decent. I mean, like I said, it's good for the Bengals in my opinion because Burrow needs all the protection he needs for him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something, like I said, he's been struggling with throughout his career. He hasn't really had the protection to prevent him from getting injured. So like I said, and you can go another tackle in the draft too. I mean, I'm hearing links about the Bengals going that route with that 18th pick. So, I mean, but Trent Brown is a good, but they can go tight end too. Who knows? But I mean, it's a big pickup for the Bengals. Like I said, it's all about protecting your franchise guy.
I had to look this up because I thought it was 32, but it's actually 31. They ranked 31st in rushing offense last year, the Bengals. So is this, they Mixon's gone. They bring in Zach Moss, who's more of a between the tackles type of guy. They had a 3rd or 4th round pick out, Chase Brown out of Illinois, kind of a smaller guy. And, Keas brought up something, that maybe they just want to, be more of a power running team. Your offensive coordinator leaves, but I mean, he wasn't the play caller, so I mean, it's going to be interesting here. I'm going to call it GB because I'm butchering that name. Says, I don't know, man. Jimmy G might be the biggest free agent signing for Bang Bros. I saw him in California. That's pretty funny.
Jimmy Bro.
For the Patriots, is there a way they can try to shoot straight back to the postseason contention, or are they a solid 5-win team? You're in luck because Keaton Talk Sports is a diehard Patriots fan, so we'll have his opinion.
I mean, I don't think it can get much worse than it was last year, right? I know he only won 4 games, but I mean, like I said, if you watch this offseason for us, we haven't really we resigned most of our guys, like Michael Winner, who's a huge part of our offensive line. We got KJ Osborne. You may look at the name and be like, okay, that's not really a flashy number 1, but it is better than what we have on the roster currently outside of Kendrick Bourne. I mean, he's our number 1 receiver as I'm speaking. But like I said, we signed most of our guys. I mean, I think, my opinion, we don't know because, like I said, the Jets, in my opinion, got better. Buffalo, if you look at them right now, they pretty much lost a lot of pieces outside of they're trying to restructure some deals to try to get players to come there. I mean, I don't think they got better, in my opinion. The Dolphins, I mean, Tua hasn't really signed that long-term deal yet. So, I mean, I think he might get it. I know I'm not saying he's a franchise guy, but the Dolphins are probably going to end up re-signing him to a big-time deal. I mean, it's funny because I was watching Cole Klatt. I think his mock draft, he had the Dolphins going with Michael Penix at that 21st. And I was like, dang, that's interesting. I was like, are they going to reset the clock at quarterback? Maybe they don't believe in Tua in terms of his throwing ability consistently. I mean, I don't know what the Dolphins go, but I mean, I think the Patriots can be better than what they were last year, definitely. I mean, I'm just looking for them to be just obviously last year they were competitive, but they outside of a couple games, but like I said, we didn't have the quarterback. But I'm just looking for improvement. That's all I'm really looking for 2024. Hopefully we can win more than 4 games. That's for sure.
It's funny. Pete, who has Pete Takes, he's a YouTuber. He's messaged me. He's like, Dan, you need to come on and talk to some of these Dolphins fans because he's one of the few guys that's Tua's not the answer. And I agree with him. No, he's not. I don't have any kids myself, but if I had a daughter, I would want her to date somebody like Tua. Like, he seems like a great guy. Is he a franchise quarterback? I don't think so. And I think if the Dolphins give him that $300 million deal, which is agents pushing for, like, they're not going to be in good shape. Penix, I think, would be a great fit on the Dolphins. And I'd love to get Pete and Pete's takes on here before the draft starts, see what he thinks, because I know that's exactly what he thinks, but he's getting lots of hate from Dolphins fans. Keas, what are your thoughts here on the Patriots? They got GB. I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm just going to say GB. It's a cool little thumbnail here. I think it's a Dragon Ball Z thing. I don't know, but it's kind of a cool picture there. But what are your thoughts here, man? Patriots 4-win team. Can they sneak back into the wild card? Can they possibly be a contender in that AFC East?
If Gerard Mayo is a hell of a coach, and I mean that's no disrespect, right? Because last year, I think the last 2 years, I want to say, like, I think the two of us legitimately thought that the Patriots could be a playoff team, right? And it was like,
I did.
As a Chiefs fan and wanting to root for them to beat Buffalo, it's been kind of heartbreaking the last couple of years, and painful to watch that offense in those games, particularly. Whatever their answer is at quarterback is going to be part of that. But a lot of it's going to be on Gerard Mayo. I still think it's going to be hard, though, right? Because if you look at the other divisions, it's hard to imagine, more than 2 AFC East teams making the playoffs, and you almost expect Buffalo to. Maybe you shouldn't, but just because of Josh Allen's sheer will, right, which is second to only like Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. It's hard to discount them. But again, you go back to the question mark with the Jets. I've already said I think the Dolphins are going to take a step back. So, I agree. Like, there's a path there. If the Dolphins take a step back and Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again, there could be a path there if Gerard Mayo is a hell of a head coach and they get a great quarterback in there and they get weapons. But I personally don't see it this year. I think it's too hard of a path. But
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. And I kind of wanted to touch base on that because it's a great question, and that's that for me is the best part about this show, because you never know what kind of questions that you're going to get. But it's a great question because I want to segue back into the draft, because me and Keaton have 2 mock drafts. Both of them are below. Please check them both out. This one I did with trades, and when I first started out on the video, I was firmly convinced that Justin Fields was going to stay in Chicago. That's why I wanted to do one with trades. I was halfway through the video, and I found out Fields got traded to the Steelers, so I had to scrap it and redo my mock draft. It was a pain in the ass. So that's also part of the reason why I want Poles to get fired, is because he ruined all that mock draft time I spent. But Keaton was correct. So me and Keaton are now on the same page with Caleb Williams going 1. We have different names. No. Me and Keaton have 1 and 2 the same. But check out our videos anyway. They're really good. Number 3, the 3rd pick in the draft, which is held by the New England Patriots. I thought Keaton said something very interesting in his video, and I think just the opposite. So I brought Keas in, who's going to moderate, and he's going to say that Dan's right, Keaton's wrong, because Keas always agrees with me. And also, I'm not trying to put any extra pressure on you, Keas, but Keaton did say my beard was better. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not trying to sway you. You just say my beard is better than yours. I'm not saying that. In Keaton's video, he thinks that there's no possibility of a trade where Minnesota traded back into the first round. They got the 23rd pick. I want to believe, I'm not a Vikings fan, but if I was a Vikings fan, I want to believe that they didn't do this just for the fun of it. Like, there's a plan. There's a team picking in the top 5 that's willing to trade down. I think New England could be that team. Are they dead set on taking a quarterback at 3? Is there a possibility for a trade? Keaton says no way. They're definitely taking a quarterback. I think with Williams, and both me and Keaton have Drake May going at 2. I'm not going to ask you who your quarterback list is, but I thought it was interesting. Me and Keaton believe Williams and May go 1-2. I threw a lot out there, by the way.
Am I supposed to answer now, Dan?
Yeah, I want to know what your opinion is. Is New England definitely taking a quarterback at 3, or is there a chance that that's where Minnesota jumps up at?
Yeah, the whole year. I quite agree with him.
Well, I think that I'm going to say this. I think there's a possibility of a trade at 3, but let me preface that with I think that's predicated on Minnesota moving up to 4, right? I think, or another team. I think that the only way that number 3 gets traded is if another team trades up to 4 and then New England trades back to 4 if they don't necessarily care which two guys they expect to be there. Like, if they're not in love with a specific quarterback, then I think that's where it makes sense of, Minnesota trades up to 4. Okay, well, we know it's going to be one of these two guys, either we love them both or, like, we're going to be fine with either guy. You don't let Minnesota know that, right? Like, who Minnesota wants. So that's obviously who New England wants. And you try to work out that trade with them, because then you're getting your trade back and you're still getting your quarterback and you're picking up a little bit more. Now that's a little Belichickian, but that's how I would see a trade happening.
I did not expect that answer. A trade with Arizona at 4, and
well, no, it wouldn't be with Arizona. It would be whoever trades up for Arizona's pick.
Okay, so you definitely think Arizona could trade down?
Yeah. Well, that's my answer of how it would happen. Yeah, I definitely think so.
That's pretty interesting. When I heard that Minnesota traded, I don't want to believe that they just said, hey, let's just get back in the first round and let's just hope something happens. I don't know if any one of you guys have ever seen the Marino to Elway ESPN special. Have you guys seen that? It's really good. So if by the way, for 30-30 specials, it's fantastic. And they interviewed the agent who was both John Elway's and Dan Marino's agent. It was the same guy. And he goes into detail how the Colts, who had the number 1 pick in the draft, they drafted Elway, and they had a trade locked in with the Raiders, and supposedly something happened. But the whole drill was the Colts said, hey, if you want the number 1 pick, we have to have A, B, and C. So Al Davis went out of his way to say, hey, look, we'll get A, B, and C. Just hold on. And part of that was a deal with the Bears, a trade with the Bears. And then the rumor mill was, because the Bears agreed to the trade, then they nixed it. The rumor mill was that Al Davis against the NFL, Pete Rozelle didn't, they didn't for each other. The whole Raiders moving, the Oakland or the LA and all that stuff. But the rumor mill was that Rozelle contacted the Bears and said, don't make this deal with the Raiders. But teams do this type of maneuvering with a plan in play. Minnesota more than likely contacted one of these teams before making this decision. I'm wondering if it's with New England. I also think that it's with the other question that I want to throw at Keas, because me and Keaton are really far apart at the Chargers on number 5. So before I get back to the differences between me and Keaton in our mock draft, I'm ranting today. Bear with me. I've had a couple energy drinks, a cup of coffee. I put sugar in it. It's not cocaine. You could actually see the sugar in the roll down there. I put way too much in it. I'm jacked up. Is Minnesota's going to make a trade up? I'm thinking now it's New England, but could it be the Chargers? Keas, Chargers are at 5. All right. Let's say New England doesn't want to trade. Arizona doesn't want to trade. It makes sense for the Chargers, right?
Yeah, I think unless we're talking about a pre-draft trade, again, it's hard because you have to know what each team, like how they are evaluating each position, right? Like my preference for the Chargers, especially as deep as this draft is at receiver, is to take your offensive lineman. Just take your offensive lineman because you can expect to get a receiver later, right? Maybe a couple of receivers, right? Green Bay gave everybody a blueprint of how to attack the wide receiver position. And so, like, if that offensive lineman that you really, really love is there at 5, then I think you stay. If maybe there's a few though, right? I don't know what Jim Harbaugh and the new GM there, think of this class. If they love like 3 or 4 offensive linemen, then who the hell cares? Trade back. Like that's the smart thing to do. But, it really depends on who they're in love with and how in love they are with them.
So, Keaton, you just heard Keys say that there's no way in hell the Chargers will ever take a wide receiver at 5.
I specifically wouldn't because of the depth, right? Like as a Chiefs fan, it drives Chiefs fans nuts that since Eric Fisher got cut and Mitch Schwartz retired, that it's so effing hard to fill those positions in the draft it's so hard, but you can get a Rashee Rice elsewhere. You can get all kinds of guys. You can get a Puka anywhere, right? And so, but getting those offensive line, getting an offensive tackle, getting a high quality offensive lineman is so much harder. Is all I'm saying is like, if there's a guy that you really love there, like get that guy because there's plenty of wide receivers to fall in love with in this draft.
So, Keaton, I don't want to ruin. I want everybody to watch Keaton's video because it's great, but I do want to ruin it because you did say something I thought was really, 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 really interesting. Is that you said Minnesota's in a rebuild mode? Is there a chance, since they're in rebuild mode, that they're going to take 11 and 23 and move up in the draft? Or do you think that they're just, hey, we're just adding talent to this roster and we're not trying to get into the top 5?
Like, so they currently hold 11 and 23, right? As of right now. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of stuff that they could, like I said, if they're willing to trade up, I think it would be with the New England Patriots, just because not only the Patriots need a quarterback, but they need somebody on the offensive line. They need to receive. I mean, they pretty much need everything at this point. Like, it's interesting. Like, I think I'm not going against the Patriots won't trade back to Minnesota. I think there's a real chance that they could do it. Like I said, they need all the help they need on the offensive line at the receiver position because we were one of the worst in the league last year in both departments. So, but the Chargers, like you mentioned earlier, I think they could trade back. In my opinion, I think they're going to trade back to maybe number 2. Was it 12? Or they're going to trade back somewhere. Because, I mean, in my first mock draft, I had Brock Bowers going number 5. I think that's a little bit too early. I think they can get him in the middle of the first round, maybe like a pick between like pick 12, 15, whatever. I think he'll be right around that range. I think the Chargers, if they trade back a little bit, I think they can get their guy there at pick 12 or whatever. So, but I think Minnesota, in my opinion, will stay put at 11 and 23 because, like I said, if you want a quarterback, I think it'll be later on. My opinion, I think it'll be later on in the first round at that 23rd pick. I mean, you're going to have to trade the house to try to get in that top 3 or 5 or whatever they're trying to trade up to.
Yeah, I think to trade up to 3 with New England, you have to give up 11 and 23
23,
and
yeah.
next year's
Next year's
round.
first.
Yeah. And so like if I'm New England, I'm going, do I want 3 number ones, including the pick at 11, or do I want to take the third best quarterback in the draft? And that's kind of the dilemma, because I think 3 number ones, especially if you're looking at New England and you're going, you know what, they're probably the worst team in the AFC East. We can get top 10 pick in 2025. Let's do that. I'm sorry, I missed that up. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm saying, hey, we're going to have. Houston did the same thing. Remember, they gave Arizona the first pick in the draft, ends up being pick number 27. If you're Minnesota,
27.
hey, look, we'll give up 3 number ones. We get our quarterback. We're right in the mix in that NFC North, and it's going to be really interesting. GB,
Right.
you want to spoil the video? No, I don't want to spoil the video, but because I do want you to watch Keaton's video. It's a great video. He has Penix going to Minnesota at 23, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I was really impressed with that because I like Penix. I like Penix in Minnesota, and it makes sense. But I don't want Herbert to – I don't know what that means. So I thought that makes a lot of sense, but I just personally think it's much more likely that Minnesota's going to trade up instead of using 11 and 23. I think that they're going to make a move somewhere either 3, 4, or 5. And that's kind of what we're thinking. But you like the Chargers to trade down, but you still think it's going to be Bowers or a receiver, Keaton.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just knowing Jim Harbaugh, like I said, he did the same thing when he was with the 49ers. Like, he's very big on like tight end sets. I think like Brock Bowers will fit in with what he wants to do, especially on the offense. Like, it gives Herbert another target to rely upon down the field. And like I said, he hasn't really had that throughout his career. So, I mean, I just think it makes sense. I mean, Joe Alt to the Chargers too. I mean, I was thinking about going with that. I mean, I think it would make sense because you want to protect Herbert. You don't want him taking hits. I mean, I just think it makes sense to just give him another target. Why not put someone on the outside who can, with all the rest of it, especially you just lost Keenan Allen, who's one of your best players. So why not fill that position?
Well, remember they drafted Quentin Johnston in the first round last year. So, I mean, you got a talented receiver already, but it's kind of neat. This is a neat thing about the draft is that we both have differences of opinions. I want to go because Brock Bowers in your latest mock went number 9 to Chicago, and I thought that was really interesting because I got the Bears going offensive line. Keas, I kind of want you to settle this debate here. You're the Bears and you take Caleb Williams. Is it much more important because you already signed? Great. I 1 hour into the show and a major brain freeze. One of my all-time favorite play. Keaton Allen, the Chargers receiver.
Keaton Allen. Yeah.
It's just coffee. It's just coffee. So you sign Allen to a deal. You got DJ Moore. They're starting left tackle out of Southern Utah, and I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name. He missed some time last year. I'm just drawing a complete blank on the kid's name. I'm gonna look it up real fast. It's driving me nuts. Braxton Jones, former 5th round pick, but he's been playing decent at left tackle. But you're going to go in on a quarterback, right? So Keaton is. I'm sorry. So Keas, do you want to add a weapon? Somebody like Brock Bowers, who's, even if you don't have him as top 10 pick, easily the best tight end in the draft, or do you want to go offensive line here?
Hey, listen, I'm a college fan of the team that's actually tight end university. We have the best tight end in the NFL, but first round tight ends, like as sexy as they feel, do not really give you great returns. So for that reason, I have to say avoid first round tight ends. Like it's really hard because you take guys and they just do not produce first round tight ends just do not produce. So like if it's me, I think you're going offensive line there. And it's hard, right? Like listen, I still would love to have Sam Laporta on the Chiefs right now. He wasn't, he wasn't even there, but like, I get it. Right. But like what first round tight end lately has just like blown it up. Right. And matched some of the best wide receiver, rookies statistically. Like it's, in theory, it seems like the right thing to do, but rarely does it even really work.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid didn't play bad for the Bills last year, and I had a big man crush on Dalton Kincaid. I don't have Bowers as a top 10 player. So Keaton, let me ask you this here, man. You do have Bowers as a top 10 player. I personally, I had Kincaid slightly better prospect. I know he went to Buffalo. I want to say 26.
26.
Yeah, 26. And I had a major man crush on him, so it's not really fair. Now, I like Bowers, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see him as a top 10 pick, man. Defend the selection because you've had him at 5 and then you've had him at 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny because like most like other mock drafts I've watched, like Brock Bowers has been linked to like the Seahawks, even though they need more help on the defensive side. The Bengals, I saw your video, you had them linked to the Bengals. That's an interesting situation there because, like I said, Joe Burrow and Brock Bowers just makes the offense so much better. But like I said, I think Joe Burrow needs more offensive line help. Brock Bowers I know the Jets even like are linked together. But like I said, like I think he's just that special of a player. Like I said, I think he can bring so much to an offense. I think he's just not just with his size, but he can just his ability to do things after the catch. Like I said, can cause nightmares to a lot of defenses. It just depends on the right situation too. The Dolphins, I know they're linked to get him as well, which I don't really think makes sense because if you're going to pay Tua, you might as well prioritize the O-line. But I know in my last mock draft, I had Olu Fashanu going to the Bears, like at number 9, which I think he'd be a better fit there than I think. Who did you have at there? What tackle did you have?
I had Joe Alt actually.
Joe Alt, okay.
Yeah, I had Joe Alt. Now, keep in mind, because I had some trades, I was thinking, because I think the trade could start at 3, but I think it ends at 5. I think Minnesota will go for 3, 4, or 5. And so when the Bears pick at 9, no offensive lineman would be off the board. My next mock draft I'm not going to do trades. I might have something different. But if you have your choice, no offensive lineman's off the board, and you have Caleb Williams, I think you got to go offensive line if you're the Bears. But I think it's interesting. You think Bowers is kind of the one thing you are right about that he has over Kincaid is to run after the catch ability, where Kincaid basically has that radius, but after he gets the ball in his hands, he's not as explosive of a runner as Bowers is. Keas also points out that Kincaid also has questionably the second best quarterback in football throwing him the ball, a number 1 wide receiver, and Dawson Knox, and he still didn't put up 700 yards. So you got some great points there. Yeah. One other, so I'm gonna go through I want everybody to watch my mock draft with trades, watch Keaton's draft. So I don't want to go over everything, but there is a few things we disagreed upon, and that was kind of the reason why I wanted us to have a threesome and talk about things that we disagree on. So Keys in Keaton's draft, he has JJ McCarthy lasting to 12. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm not going to ask you if your mock draft because you haven't done one yet, so it's not fair. But how likely is it that Denver goes quarterback in round 1? They don't have a second round pick, remember?
Yeah. My opinion right now, and I said it, I think whenever I was last on your shows last week, whenever it was, is that and I know it's hard because with Sean Payton, but a lot of the things that Denver did really smell like a tank. You know what I mean? Like cutting some of your best players, trading players. Like, it's really hard for me to, when you draft a guy. All right. So on one side, when you draft that guy, obviously his clock, is starting. Like you're going to be paying him in 3 or 4 years. But the other thing that I did talk about, it's like, do these guys have the it factor? So the pro for drafting a quarterback, if you think he has a legitimate shot, would be to go ahead and find out in year 1 or 2 whether he has that it factor. So you can, if you have to cut bait, like Chicago, like Pittsburgh, you're not kicking the can 3 or 4 years down the road and screwing yourself. So I can see it either way.
Yeah, I think Denver actually does pull the trigger if a quarterback's available at 12. I just don't see them trading up. That's kind of the problem. I had them actually trading down and taking Penix later in the first round, because I think if you took Penix at 12 and without a second round pick, but a Denver Gator threw something out in the comments. I haven't seen him here in the chat, but he threw out a comment because the offensive coordinator worked with Penix. He says he thinks Seattle may grab Penix in the draft. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. Ooh. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, because he said the offensive coordinator is worked with Penix. Either he's the Huskies offensive coordinators coming over from college, but he said there's a connection there. And I was like, man, you traded for Sam Howell. You got Geno Smith.
Yeah, they did
work with that. Yeah, but that Seattle, you never know what the fuck they're going to do in the draft. They're always one of those weird teams. GB says, I don't want to draft a wide receiver at that number 5. I don't want Herbert to throw to anyone next season. That's it. Stack the O-line. And by the way, that's what I have been doing in the draft. I'm trading down and going offensive and defensive line, building from outside in. So that kind of makes sense here. Like Denver to stick with Stidham this season, try for a quarterback next, unless they trade for one.
See, that's the thing too. Is like Stidham, like he's not terrible. He's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he's a decent quarterback. But like, I think it would be good to like, because I don't know who's behind Stidham. So I think if you bring a guy like, I know Bo Nix has been linked to Denver a lot. If you bring a guy like him or J.J. McCarthy and just have them, like I said, with the amount of stuff that they've done in terms of like getting rid of some of their players, I think if you can have those two battle out for the starting position, I think that's a better situation than just rolling with Stidham. Like, hey, so like, what if he gets hurt? Then you don't have another option behind at quarterback. That's what I would do. But
I actually what I did on my mock draft is I'll have to send you the link, but I couldn't trade back into the first round, and I thought it was a system glitch, so I had to do a 2-round mock. So I got Carolina trading back into the first round. So I did a 2-round mock, which I didn't reveal to anybody. But in my 2-round mock, in the second round, I didn't do any trades, and there will be trades in the second round. That's why I didn't reveal it. I had the Raiders taking Bo Nix in the second round. And if that happens, I think Bo Nix would win the starting job straight up. And then
I agree.
Yeah, and then Penix would go later in the first round to Denver. That's how I had it. But watch my video anyway, even though I'm ruining it for everybody. Watch my video anyway. One other thing that I do want to talk about, since we're talking about the Raiders, is oops, excuse me here. I'm having some technical difficulties. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay, because my computer.
I can hear you fine, yeah.
You guys can hear me okay? Okay. I'll just keep talking here. If I go off screen here, I think I can fix it. Okay. So I have the Raiders going quarterback in round 2, but I didn't reveal my 2-round mock draft. I have them as their biggest need, offensive line. Keaton, I actually really liked your draft, and if I remember right, it was Quinion Arnold, the Toledo tight end.
Quinn Mitchell.
Quinn
Mitchell, yeah. Quinn Mitchell.
Yeah. Quinn Mitchell. By the way, I think he would be a great player, great value at 13, but I think the Raiders have a bigger need on the offensive line. Keas,
Yeah.
You're obviously agreeing with me, right? You're obviously agreeing with me. If you're looking at the Raiders, is their biggest need in the secondary to battle Mahomes, or do they have to protect whoever's going to be their quarterback, probably a rookie next year?
Okay, we're talking about number 13 here.
Yes, sir. Number 13, the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, so I actually said cornerback or wide receiver here. Like, I think you have to protect
receiver
Davante Adams. So to me, it's cornerback because you did lose Amik Robertson, and Pierce is going to want his dogs, but you have to protect Davante Adams because Davante Adams is not enough. And what they brought in Gardner Minshew.
Minshew, yeah.
So I've liked him. I don't think a whole season is great for him, but having Davante Adams is great, but he also needs protection. So I would say cornerback or wide receiver there.
All right,
that's interesting.
So you're gonna go with Keaton, and by the way, receiver would make a lot of sense too.
I was going to ask you, who do you think they would take if they go receiver? Who do you think they would? Who do you think they would take at that receiver?
Well, I want to jump in front of Keas here. I'll get Keas' opinion here, but I want to jump in front of him because I have my board. Brian Thomas Jr., the other LSU wide receiver. I think he would be a great fit. A big body dude. Who's got some deep speed. I compare him to Gabe Davis on steroids because I wasn't high on Gabe Davis. I'm still a little bitter over that touchdown performance against the Chiefs a couple of years ago. No, I think that's like this highlight moment. Hey, the greatest game of your career is in what people remember as the 13-second game for the Chiefs, but.
I still can't believe that game. That's 13 seconds.
Isn't that awesome? Everybody loves that. Even Patriots fans love that game. It had nothing to do with it. It's the Bills either, but yeah. I forgot where I was going. That the wide receiver for the Raiders, Brian Thomas. I just think that would make a lot of sense, but I look at the way the Raiders are kind of building their team. They lost their starting right tackle to the Giants. Underrated move we didn't even talk about as far as free agency. So, Keas, man, you said corner or receiver. Is there a particular player that you like maybe for the Raiders, or just either one of those, whoever's best available?
Well, my joking answer, because it's completely the Raiders, would be Xavier Worthy, right? That's the most Raiders wide receiver ever. I could go with Thomas. I think the benefit there of taking any number of guys, right, is you have Davante there, right? That's basically the wide receiver coach. So any of those guys that you're going to project to take over and replace Davante, in a year or two or three, to let that guy learn all the nuances from, Davante Adams. I think it's hard to miss on a wide receiver pick.
Seriously,
but they could do it because that's what they're known for.
Me and Keaton didn't have. I don't think me or Keaton I don't want to put words in your mouth. I wasn't thinking receiver at 13, but now you brought up some points, man. That kind of makes sense, man. That kind of makes sense. I might have to think about that on my next mock draft.
I mean, and too, like going off of what he said, you get a receiver, it takes pressure off of Davante Adams. You know what I'm saying? From having to get double teamed all the time. Now you have another receiver on the other side you have to worry about. So that is a great point there.
GB, and I'm going to butcher that name, so I'm just going to go with GB. Something relevant, of course, would be in your mock draft video. Who do you think is the biggest sliders are in the draft? Keaton, man, I want to know. Who's sliding in this draft, or who do you see sliding in this draft?
I mean, I know, man, that's tough. I know.
Throughout
Olu Fashanu, I've heard could drop in the draft, like later on in the first round. Like I'm hearing like he can go as far down as to maybe 21 to Miami, because like I said,
God, what a great pick for Miami at 21.
That would be a 20. Yeah, that would. Bengals too could use. I mean, I know of him. I know, like you said, Brian Thomas Jr. Some people have him going to the Buffalo Bills. I just don't see him going that far down the draft. In my opinion, I just think he goes somewhere in that top 20. So, yeah, those two guys come to mind.
That's actually exactly where I had him going, is all the way down to Buffalo. And then if he gets to Buffalo, I could see Carolina saying, hey, Buffalo, you don't have a third round pick. We have the first pick in the fourth round and the first pick in the second round. That was kind of my trade. And Brian, by the way, ever since Keas said that, Brian Thomas Jr., God, that would make a lot of sense for the Raiders. I mean, you get your quarterback in the second round, like I think you could do, and give them some weapons on the outside, and then you could get a slot receiver later in the draft. Actually makes a lot of sense. So the Trek reviewer says, no, Thomas Jr. is too good for Kansas City. He can't catch or hold on to the ball. He's in here. I mocked in my 2-round mock draft, GB, Braden Fisk, who, when he ran to 4.79 at the combine, I was convinced he'd go in the first round. I couldn't find a place for him. I thought maybe Kansas City at 32. I got them going in another direction. So I had him sliding all the way to the Houston Texans at 42. And you put him with Danielle Hunter. You put him with Will Anderson, and you got something really special. And if that were to happen, if he slides all the way to 42, so and it just sucks because I like his game. I thought he was going to run like a 5.0 something. So when he ran a 4.79, I'm like, that's definitely a first round guy. And then I couldn't find a spot to put him in the first round. So it was kind of frustrating. I don't know if you remember last year, Nolan Smith slid. Now there were some issues with his shoulder, but he slid all the way to Philly at 30. So this is a guy that I think is a top 25 player. But when I look at the draft, I can't find a spot to put him in the first round, so I'm gonna say Fisk. That's just kind of my opinion here. And and by the way, as far as tight ends are concerned, Kelsey's a 3rd round pick, Andrews a 3rd round, Kittle's a 5th round, Laporta was 2nd round. I don't know if you remember. Another brain freeze here. He was actually a free agent when he signed with the Raiders. Now he's with the Giants. The Giants traded a 3rd round pick.
Number 12.
Waller retired.
Waller,
Waller retired, which damn shame because but I mean he was I want to say a free agent, but like there was time that he was in comparison, with Kelsey had a few really, really great years. But he
was a beast too.
One Pride 40 says, I say the Falcons got better. I'm curious. I think the Falcons are now the favorite. Welcome, One Pride. Nobody's saying the Lions got better. We all hate the actually, it's funny. I've been joking around with Keas. Keas been texting. I've been calling the Lions Keas' team because we've all been really impressed with the Lions. I was convinced that they were going to lose people. And this is a team that, they really – so just going off last year, it's called San Francisco the best team in the NFC and Detroit the second best team. That's just for fun. Detroit really closed that gap between the two. And how big of a gap was it to begin with? So –
Hey, listen.
if they
go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. Good.
I was just going to say they were a half a game. And if they hadn't Shanahaned all over themselves, I would have looked like a genius with my preseason prediction. But they had a Shanahan, the Amber Heard place.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I don't know what they were. Yeah,
I just watched that Aquaman movie, and I can't, like, every time I see her, like, I know she's pretty, but that's like only thing I can think about. It's like, God, you're beautiful, but
you have nightmares about that, don't you, Dan?
I just wonder, like, I've always been impressed with actors. Like, I wonder, because Jason Momoa, like, he's this is his wife, and like, and I'm sitting here like, I mean, like, you're in bed together. Are you thinking about that? I get, I probably could never be an actor because that would just be stuck in my mind, but. One pride, you don't have any pressing needs. You've done. I'm floored by your off season. I'm floored. I really am. The Las Vegas Spades will win the 2026, and we'll find out. We'll find out in a couple of years. I want to talk about something that I am firmly convinced is going to happen. Keas isn't so sure. I would love to get to know, Keaton, what you think. Pick number 15, because me and you disagree. There was a lot of talk about L'Jarius Sneed being traded to the Colts. I don't think Keith thinks it's going to happen. I'm convinced it's going to happen any day now. What are your thoughts? Is Sneed going to the Colts? Is it going to happen? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it would be a great pickup. I mean, it would definitely improve them a lot. But I mean, like I said, in my mock, I had Cooper DeJean. Is it DeJean or DeJean? I want to get his name right.
I think it's
DeJean. Okay. DeJean. Okay.
Take it from the Iowa fan. It's DeJean.
DeJean.
Right,
okay.
Right.
That's what I was saying the whole time. But I had him going with the Colts. I mean, like I said, they need help in the back end. That's just what I believe. If they pick them up, I think that would definitely improve them a lot on that side. But I mean, even if they got Snead too, I mean, that would definitely put them in the conversation for the playoffs for sure, because he's that special of a player for what he did in Kansas City.
Keys, is Snead going to be a Colt?
You know what? I'm leaning towards not at this point. And, for whatever reason, and back when Chris Ballard took over as Colts GM, I thought that, I understood kind of what he was going for, because, he had a lot of good players, especially offensive linemen and linebackers and stuff that needed extensions. And now I'm just starting to think that maybe Jim Irsay is a huge cheapskate, or Chris Ballard's a huge cheapskate. One of them doesn't know what they're doing right now, because a lot of the reports out there have L'Jarius Sneed wanting 4 years, $88 million. And the reports are that, there's some reports out there that he was offered 4 years, $80 million by a team, I think the Titans, and turned that down. And is holding pretty steadfast at $88 million. So listen, the reports out there made it sound like, Kansas City had a reasonable asking price, and L'Jarius Sneed isn't willing to budge on his asking price to sign an extension. So I'm leaning towards it not happening, simply because right now he's kind of controlling his destiny. And if you're a team and you're not going to budge over $2 million a year, hell, throw it in there as incentives, right? Like, you can find a way, marginally likely to be earned, right? You can find a way to get him his $88 million because he wants that highest cornerback AAV. Like, you can find a way to make it happen if you care. If you're going to haggle about $8 million over 4 years, I don't think you're super, super serious.
Yeah, I just I'm not an Irsay fan. Let me be very clear. I'm an old man. I was born in Baltimore. I actually watched the Baltimore Colts play, and I was a little kid. I was 9 years old. I turned on the TV. You see these Mayflower trucks leaving. This couldn't happen in today's day and age, where a team can leave in the middle of the night like the Colts did, but it was like a bad dream, because me and my dad used to, go to Old Memorial Stadium. We watched Colts play live. So I'm always going to have like a bitter taste towards the Irsay family. It's probably not fair. It's probably not fair, but I blame Irsay. I think Chris Ballard, who was the Chiefs assistant general manager, did a fantastic job. He's now the Colts GM. I think that I think he's an excellent GM. I think he's done an excellent job with the Colts. I mean, I don't blame him for maybe I should blame him for Matt Ryan not working out or knowing that Carson Wentz wasn't any good. Maybe I should put some blame on him, but I think he's a pretty good GM, and I think he's going to make this deal happen with Snead. But I mean, Chiefs got him on the franchise tag. I mean, how bad would it be for Snead? You come back, you win a third Super Bowl, and then you make $100 million next year. I mean, how bad is that?
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I would do it. I mean, get a chance to, like I said, repeat. I mean, I would. I mean, if I was him, I would stay. Why not? I mean,
I really thought it was going to be Chris Jones would leave, and I thought Snead was going to say, but it would be hard to say. It would be really hard to say. I wanted to ask about Seattle's pick, but this is a good one here. One Pride 40 says with Aaron Donald retiring, I feel like the Rams need to rebuild. Keaton, me and you had similar picks. I'm drawing a blank because I didn't mark it down on my list here, but we had similar picks with what the Rams doing at 19. With Aaron Donald gone, do they need to rebuild?
I mean, Aaron Donald, a lot of people say it's going to be hard to replace a guy like him with the type of career he's had. I mean, the Rams last year were in the wild card. They lost to the Detroit Lions in the first. I mean, they could have won that game if they were just able to convert in the red zone, which they couldn't do. But, I mean, like I said, originally I had Byron Murphy second going to the Rams just because I thought, like, with given his skill set, what he did at Texas, I thought would fit in with what the Rams want to do on that side, like I said. Or they can go edge rush. My last mock draft, I had Latu going there just because I thought that would be a good replacement for with Donald retiring. I know the Rams are ranked towards the bottom of the league in terms of pass rush. I mean, you can't hurt going either direction there. I don't think they will rebuild, but I think their defense will take a bit of a step back next year. Losing the guy like Darren Donald, who is, like I said, experienced, knows. I think I was hoping he would have played one more year. Like Leatu would have been someone. I think Darren Donald would have been a great mentor to Byron Murphy or even Leatu at that with that pick. So, but he's gone now. But I think they definitely need to address that position for sure.
You said that you don't have them rebuilding. Are they a playoff team this year?
I think they can be somewhere. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they can be somewhere towards the bottom, maybe sneaking in the playoffs. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So,
but because I don't think the NFC is as tough as the AFC. Obviously, AFC is just a gauntlet.
Yeah, I agree completely. So, Keaton Talk Sports says bet your life savings on the Rams making the playoffs. Keys, Rams, do they need to rebuild, or are you like Keaton who says bet your life savings on the Rams making the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think they need to rebuild. I think as I said last week when we got this news, it was kind of shocking because everything this offseason made it really look like the Rams were going to be legit, a legit team in the NFC West this year. And, last year was kind of the tough year, right? So it was kind of like if you were going to retire any year, why would it not be last year, over this year where things look a lot more promising? But I think the bigger thing, the reason you don't rebuild, right? You have two legit stud wide receivers. You got the quarterback, right? Like, you just going to trade everybody away and start over? It's not easy to find those two legit wide receivers like that. And as far as losing Aaron Donald, at the end of the day, he was getting double and triple teamed so often anyway. It's like he had an impact, but in some ways it was kind of like a hidden impact. I think it's just a matter of you got to try to, like, you have some time, not as much, if he made this decision before legal tampering began, which I think would have put them in better position. But, you have some time now to regroup defensively and kind of strategize how you're going to, move on now without Aaron Donald. Like, it's possible, right? We've seen Brian Flores scheme a bunch of scrubs open and create all kinds of pass rush. So, like, there's ways to do it.
Yeah, I don't think they need to rebuild at all. I think that they're a wild card team. I still think that they can push the 49ers for contention in the West, but it's a big blow, man. It's a big blow. They're going to be a fun team.
Sure.
To watch in this year, and they're a fun team in the draft because this is the first time I think in 6 years they have a first round pick, and it wouldn't surprise me if they trade that pick for a player. I mean, they did it. I'm trying to think of the names here. I knew Jalen Ramsey. There was somebody else that they traded for. They could make a move. By the way, I think if I'm correct here, we both have them going defense, but I mean, they could use help in the secondary. I mean, they could do 101 different things. Keas brings up something interesting. I think if DeJohn makes it to Philly, Fangio would want him. He loves his Iowa defenders, especially linebackers, and even at the Bengals, they'd want to look at. So, Keas, by the way, everybody watch my video. It's fantastic. Watch Keaton's video. It's fantastic. So Keas, you're going to hate this. I have him going all the way down to 31 to the 49ers.
I don't think he lasts that long.
And the funny thing is that one thing that me and Keaton both had exactly the same, and I was kind of surprised about it. We both have Fangio taking Nate Wiggins, the guy who ran was it 4.29?
4.29, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason being is that Fangio, I have a hard time believing if Wiggins is available. Because he has that 6'2" frame. I think he weighed in at like 178, 176, 178. But he can bulk up. I have a hard time saying Fangio. It's like, look, take the dude who runs the 4.2 something, make it work. And that's. But I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't mind. If I'm Fangio, taking either or, I think Fangio might just say, "Hey guys, look, let me take the Iowa kid instead." It wouldn't surprise me, but I got him going.
Yeah, I think Roseman definitely because of the athletic profile, but I think if Vic had to say, I think he's going to look at a player like DeJean with his intelligence. You have to be just like in a Fangio defense or a Lou Anarumo defense or a Bill Belichick defense. Probably a Gerard Mayo defense now, right? Like, in a lot of ways, a Steve Spagnuolo defense, those guys love their intelligent, high IQ defensive players. And that's kind of what you're getting, in a lot of Phil Parker's defensive players, which is why I said, Vic Fangio, especially the linebackers, right? Josie Jewell before him, they had another Iowa guy before Josie Jewell. They've had like 3 or 4 linebackers there back during the Fangio era. There's at least 2. And so, I just think that, and yeah, he's a cornerback, but, I think that there's a lot of intelligence there where like a Vic Fangio or a Lou Anarumo are going to really like those guys when they're having their war room discussions, at least what input they get. But yeah, I think Howie Roseman is going to look at for sure look at the athletic profile, and see that 40. And yeah, I'm with you there. But I think if Vic has a say,
Well, it's funny because me and Keaton both had our mock drafts. I think we had Mims. Or no. I had Mims going earlier, if I remember right. But both of us liked Mims going to the Bengals. But now that they signed Trent Brown, I could definitely see it's the gene, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm probably I'll be honest with you. My next mock might be the gene going to the Bengals, which would really suck.
And, like going back to what you were saying about the gene, like. I mean, he makes the Eagles defense better. I mean, if you go back to watch the tape last year, I mean, really after that 49ers game where they got beat down at home, their defense has not been the same for the rest of the year. Like, it clearly showed, definitely in the playoffs as well. They got just absolutely torched on the back end. So I think he makes them that much better for sure. Him or with Nate Wiggins at that pick.
This is a great question here. Is there a market for Renfro with somebody who doesn't have wide receivers right now? I wouldn't mind any veteran that's playing for my Chargers. What could be worse than two playable receivers? I think there is a market for Renfro, but I just don't know how much of it is available right now. I think that he's going to be a guy that signs later, like around training camp, because I think there might be an injury that goes down. But I don't see him signing anytime soon. But I think there's a huge market because I think lots of teams would like to have a veteran, reliable slot receiver like that. Keas, I'll start with you, man. Is there a market for Renfro, or am I just hallucinating here?
Yeah, I like him. I don't know how many teams out there are going to be clamoring for him when you have such a loaded wide receiver class, UDFAs. It's really hard. I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be that big of a market. I just don't.
All right. I mean, it is a great draft for receivers. So, Keaton, man, is there a market for Hunter Renfro, who was released by the Raiders, or or is he somebody who's just going to be unsigned for a while?
I mean, I've done some research recently on him. I haven't really seen anything about him going or linked to go to whatever team is wanting his services. I mean, he is a good player. I mean, I know, I just don't really see much as well of a market as well for him. Maybe something will come up later on, or I don't know. I'm not sure, honestly, that one.
Yeah, Keaton, One Pride 40 puts in, if Murphy goes to the Rams, Jerjon goes to us. I'm drawing a blank. Okay, you got Jerjon going. You agree? That was kind of the question I have, because I think that after signing BJ Reader, you would go in another direction. I had offensive line in my draft, but now you've already addressed the offensive line. So Detroit's kind of a fun team in this draft. This just cracked me the hell up. So they have a 36-year-old quarterback with an injury list longer than Taylor Swift's relationship. It just cracked. That's awesome. So when Stafford retires, that's when they need to rebuild. They could go quarterback this year, man. Keaton, I see you gas, man. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because that's funny that you mentioned that, because I was like, I think it was my either my first or second mock draft. I originally had a quarterback going. I had Bo Nix actually going to that to the Rams, just because because if you think about it, Stafford, as good as he is, he doesn't have that much left in his career. So why not bring in a guy like Bo Nix that can sit behind him for a year and learn? That's what I had in my first mock. I thought that would have been a good situation for him, but they do need to address that position once he decides to hang it up.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. And then when Aaron Donald left, it's like, okay, because I think the Rams are still in a playoff type position. I don't think they're trying to rebuild things yet. So that's why I went against it. But the Rams are a team, you have absolutely no idea what they're going to do in the draft. So I think your Jim Harbaugh tight end is Eric All later, all former Michigan tight end, went to Iowa for a year, learned actually. Iowa is tight end and he's a guy that whoever he signs with, I'm kind of going to pay attention to, because his Iowa tight ends have been phenomenal. I know that me and Keas have loved the Reader signing. Keaton talks sports, man. Keaton, DJ Reader signs to Detroit. What's your opinion here?
Like I said, it was a good move by the Detroit Lions. They need to, just bringing back most of their players. I think it was the right move too. They were a game away last year from the Super Bowl, which honestly, I still can't really wrap my head around them losing that game. They really had the game won. They just couldn't. What's his name? Dan Campbell decided to go for it instead of extending the lead. But I mean, I think it's a great move for the Detroit Lions. I think it's good to retain most of their core and try to run it back next year.
Yearly retirement. Yeah, I know. Every year is always a rumor about McVay retiring. Does he want to be part of a rebuild? Does he take a break? I have no idea. I mean, he could do what Sean Payton did and leave and then come back with another team. That's really, a great question. I'm curious how the Rams are going to address this in the draft, because this is the first time they've had a first round pick in years. So I'm really curious what they're going to do. Keas, I don't want to keep you here too much longer here. Can you hang out just for a few more minutes, or do you have to wrap up?
A few more minutes.
All right. So I appreciate it, man. Because I want to get there's 3 other questions I definitely want to keep you here on. Number 17, Jacksonville. Keaton has receiver. I have best available defensive player. You're Jacksonville. Kind of what's your thought process going into the draft? And are you the best team in the AFC South, or?
Yeah, so your second part, I think that's going to be a very good question, because that's going to be a tough one. The first one, I actually think you go best player available at a position of need. Like Jack, so you added Eric Armstead, right? Good addition there. Mm-hmm. You added Ronald Darby in the secondary there. You added Gabe Davis to the wide receiver room. You signed Mitch Morse to be your center, which I think is going to really help out Trevor Lawrence, great veteran center now who's worked with. Was he there when Mahomes was there? I believe he was.
I think he was here his first year.
So you go from Mahomes to Josh Allen, and then Trevor Lawrence gets that guy, and of course he Alex Smith before Mahomes. Mitch Morse was a great center. The issue was always the concussion. So if he can stay healthy, concussion free, you have a guy who's been the center for some really good quarterbacks, and I think that helps out Trevor Lawrence. But and you signed Darnell Savage, so they've added some good pieces in free agency on both sides of the ball, which I think frees them up to really look at best player available at position in need. Which again, I think it goes back to who's there when they draft. Is it the wide receiver, or is it a defensive player? So for me, I don't want to get stuck in the. What's that?
You just think best player available?
For the most part, if you want to say whatever their position of needs are, that's fine, because I don't think you ever truly take best player available unless you're the Raiders, right? And you draft a kicker in the first round and a punter in the 3rd or 4th round. Like, your best player available almost always has to have a bit of position of need, into the grading of it, right? So, to me, that's kind of what you're looking at, is your best player available at, one of your top 2 or 3 positions of need. So it's kind of who's there, right? And who do we like most, who's there?
Because I have a corner, and if I remember correctly, Keaton had Brian Thomas Jr. going there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, that's actually a great question, is who does Jacksonville have as the highest rated player? I'm going to give Keas 2 rapid fire questions, because I know he's got to get going. He's got a special OnlyFans show that he's doing here in a little bit, so I'm going to try to get it going here. Baltimore at 30. Me and Keaton are on opposite ends of the spectrum. He thinks wide receiver, because you're losing some free agents and receivers. Makes sense. I personally have Kool-Aid McKinstry, great name, an Alabama player. Baltimore likes those Bama players. So, I mean, is Baltimore looking to fix up the defense, or are they looking to fix up the offense in this draft, do you think?
Again, I think it depends on what the run on wide receivers looks like, right? Because if there's a big run on them, I think at that point you might take a wide receiver there. Otherwise, if you still have a bunch of guys you like there, you might just wait and take them later. You kind of created your own wide receiver mess, but at the same time, the offense still runs through Lamar, the running back, and the tight end, right? And you bring in Derrick Henry to kind of reinforce that that's going to be your identity. It's hard because like last year you bring in an Odell, right? And it just doesn't seem like that worked out really well.
No.
It's like wide receivers to the Ravens are like running backs to the Chiefs, right? Like it's really hard because it's like, you listen, everybody's roster says you have to have wide receivers, so you have to have wide receivers, but the Ravens only want to use wide receivers for certain things and in certain cases, right? And so like they don't really want to get a high-end wide receiver because of that, because that guy is going to be complaining about how many touches he's getting a game, because the offense is always going to run through the Lamar, the running back, and Mark Andrews. And you can even add in Isaiah Likely there, who I think is just going to keep getting better and better. So for me, that's kind of the question is, are you in love with the wide receiver? How many wide receivers are left? Because, hey, maybe you fall in love with Mitchell and he's there, right? Or, maybe you fall in love with this other guy and he's there. Otherwise, I think in a later round, and if Kool-Aid is there, right, get the water and get the sugar and get the pitcher.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I'll be honest, because I don't think he's going to run because of that foot injury. But
fractured foot, yeah.
Yeah, I think that if he did run and he ran well, there's no way he'd be at 30. But I just, in my mock draft, he's going to free fall, and I just don't see him going below 30. Where did you have him go, Keaton? Do you remember?
I am going a pick late. I'm going to the 49ers.
Yeah. And if the trade happened for Snead, I wouldn't have a problem with Kansas City grabbing him at 32, which is kind of next thing I want to fire off of Keas. Keas, before I get you out of here, in Keaton's mock draft, he had what I would absolutely love. It's Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. I think he's going to go way, way, way before Kansas City picks at 32. Two-part question here, because I know I got to get you out of here. Do the Chiefs have to address offensive line in the draft? And is there a chance Kansas City trades up for that offensive lineman?
Do they have to? No. The weird thing is we expect Brett Veach to have a left tackle before the draft, but we'll see what happens. And we don't know what's happened this offseason. Maybe Juwan Taylor has been doing a lot of offseason stuff at left tackle. I don't know. There was talk when they signed him last year that, that could be a possibility for last year. It could be a possibility for this year. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know what they think of Morris, but, I think that Andy Heck and Andy Reid have a pretty good, perception of these guys. And I'll just say, because you asked me about Tyler Guyton, or that was a question you put in.
Well, that's the pick that Keaton has in his latest mock draft. I think he's going to be long gone, which by the way, if Tyler Guyton's available at 32, I think it's a no-brainer. Kansas City gets him. But do the Chiefs have to address tackle in this draft? And could they trade up for a tackle?
Listen, I'm starting a GoFundMe so that I can finance a Joe Alt smear campaign, and we can tank his draft status.
Oh man, any team would. I mean, too. That dude's special.
But his dad played for Kansas City, so there's an emotional connection for Chiefs fans, right? So, that's
nothing to being an Iowa Hawkeye either.
Yeah. Jokes aside, though, Dan, I jokingly texted you about Guyton because I saw an interview he gave where he said that Lane Johnson was the best right tackle in NFL history. So I'm automatically questioning his football intelligence. But come on, seriously though, the best right tackle in NFL history. Like, I know in this chat, right, between Chiefs fans and Lions fans, even Patriots fans, that we have a little bit to say about the idea that Lane Johnson is the best right tackle in NFL history. But I don't know. I don't think we have to go offensive tackle. I don't think we even have to go wide receiver. And I don't, even if we trade L'Jarius Sneed, I don't think we have to go, cornerback either. I think they're okay with some answers either way. I personally hope that they could trade up to get an offensive tackle, but the biggest issue is nobody wants to trade down,
yeah,
with the Chiefs. And Keaton would know this, better than everyone else out there, right? Now I'm learning why Bill Belichick traded back so much. Nobody wanted to let him trade up.
Yeah.
No. If
true, yeah.
wanted to trade up, I don't think they're going to be able to. Keas, I kept you a little late here, so I'll get you out of here. Keaton, can I keep you around? Because there's in here. I want you to answer, especially this one by One Pride. Keas, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much for saying my mock draft was better than Keaton's. So that's exactly what you said. And by the way, Keas puts it, watch both mocks because both videos are really fantastic. So Keas, final thoughts, words before you leave here.
Hey, listen, I'm exhausted right now, so I've had a blast. Keaton, it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too,
I'm
man.
done, guys.
Sure.
I got to go to bed so I can go to work.
All right. Hey, man, Keas, you have a great night, man. And hopefully I can get you back on here in the near future.
All
and
right,
by the way, he'll be live tomorrow, right?
That's debatable.
Okay, it's debatable. All right, well, I won't hold you to it, man. Hey, have a great night, man. We'll talk to you later.
Good talking.
All right, man. So me and you are dueling mock drafts. So you just heard it here. Keas said mine was much better than Keaton's. No brainer. But actually, both our videos are really good. Please check them both out. Next week, my mock draft will not have trades, so we'll see. Because one thing I thought that was really interesting, I think 7 or 8 picks were exactly the same, and since I had some trades, but I'll level with you. If Tyler Guyton's available at 32, that's an absolute no brainer. I really there's some really good questions here. One pride, somebody asked this earlier. But we'll answer this again for One Pride. Who's a draft prospect? Because I have Tyler Guyton going 15 to the Colts. You have him going 32. I think the Colts go. Now keep in mind when I have Guyton going 15. 2 things. I have a lot of offensive linemen going early, and 2, I have Sneed going to the Colts. In the next week or 2. So the secondary will be set, and I think the Colts could go at 15, could go best player available, which I got a hunch that the Colts like Guyton, just kind of a weird thing. But anyway, the question is which one draft prospect you think is going to drop hard in this draft?
Originally, my first mock, Cleveland Kenstry was up there in that top 15-ish. Like, he was one of the best corners. but now like ever since he got that foot fracture, a lot of people have had him dropping down later in the first round. Some people even had him going out of the first round, which I think was kind of ridiculous in my opinion, just because I think he deserves, given his skill set when he's healthy, to go in the first round. So I mean, Quinn McKinstry had him falling down a little bit towards the later in the first, so that was one of my players I had dropping.
Yeah, probably the player that I have in my watch my latest video, because I bring this up. I talk about the teams that didn't pick in the first round. I think I got all of them, and then also had Bo Nix going to the Raiders, which I thought was kind of fun. Yeah, in the second round, because I see the Raiders going, take the best available offensive lineman, then double back and get their quarterback, and then They have to do some work in the secondary, like you said. You had no, wait a minute. You didn't I thought you had corner to the Raiders here.
Yeah, I had Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon
Mitchell. The Raiders. Okay, Quinyon Mitchell, yeah.
Okay, I messed up because I thought you had him going to I had him going to the Rams, but yeah, Quinyon Mitchell. By the way, I've mocked that to the Raiders a couple times myself. In my 2-round mock draft, Braden Fisk, the defensive tackle of Florida State, who, by the way, could work with the Lions. I had him free falling to the Houston Texans, and it sucks because I think he's a top 25 player. When he ran the 4.79, I think he was like 290, 295. And he's a guy that can play. If you use an odd front, he's a 5 tech, possibly. Might have to put on a little bit of weight. I just couldn't find a spot in the first round for him, and it just pissed me off because I was like, okay, no, he can go here, and I was like, well, this player fits better. Buffalo at 27 could be a spot. He could be an Aaron Donald. I'll use the word replacement in air quotes at 19. Had him free falling all the way to Houston. What were they picked? 44?
40. I think it was 42. I believe.
42.
42, yeah.
So I had him going in my mock. I had him going 42. And by the way, that would be like a home run for Houston, especially if we give up Daniel Hunter. So those are my two. We don't have any major. Yeah, you're right. And I'll be honest with you. Actually, Keaton, Detroit's, I think, really done a fantastic job. I agree. Remember off the top of my head, who did you have them taking 29? I had them going offensive line, but then they signed Zeitler. So I'm like, I don't really know. Who did you have Detroit taking at 29?
I had Chop Robinson.
Robinson. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That, by the way, I think that would be a fantastic. With everything they've done, actually, so you think you could. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Detroit at 29, though, could just go with best player available, couldn't they?
They could. I mean, you can go. I mean, Khalil McKinstry would be. I mean, I know he's linked a lot to go to the Lions as well. I mean, they do need help, especially in the back end of the deep. I mean, they need help in the edge rusher too because they couldn't really generate pressure last year. Great offense, but their defense couldn't really get it done when it mattered. So I mean, I think going Chop Rob, I just think he fits in well with the Detroit Lions, especially like Dan Campbell with the culture. He's done a really good job with turning that culture around. They want they're very physical. I think he would be a good player, a good fit there in Detroit, and that for that defense a lot. He would definitely improve their defense.
Yeah, I do too. I in my mock draft, I just have a hard time with the rushers that are leaving Tampa Bay. I got them free falling to Tampa Bay at
Tampa Bay. 20.
Yeah. I just kind of looking at Tampa Bay, and I'm kind of like, I'm going to put them there. Barton is the guy that Graham Barton is the Duke left tackle who's probably a guard or center in the pros, and that's who I mocked in my watch my video one pride, but that's who I had mocked, but that was before the Zeitler signing. So now I'm kind of like when I do my latest mock draft, I'm gonna have to really look at Detroit, and I'm gonna be like, God, who's been free falling in this draft. I'm not going to do a trades one, but I could easily see Detroit trading down. I could also see Detroit trading up.
Trading up, yeah.
Years. They may fall in love with somebody and say, "Hey, look," and I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who they would take. Keys hops on here and he says, "Unless I disagree with Dan, because because definitely okay. English is hard. Let's try this again. Unless I disagree with Dan, because then I definitely am off the bed." By the way, Keys, thank you. So he in the private chat, I don't know if you can see it or not, but he's like, "Hey, I was supposed to be out of here at 8:30 Central," and I felt bad because I completely forgot, and we just kind of kept going here.
Yeah, I saw that.
And yes, yes, I am. Wide receiver, corner, defensive tackle, offense, and there's a handful of teams. Actually, let me ask you this here. Is there a team in this draft that you're thinking this team is going to trade down? And let me rephrase that. Is there a team that could trade down later in the draft that Detroit could trade up with? Because I'm looking at Pittsburgh at 20 and the Rams at 19 as possible trade partners for Detroit.
That's interesting. I mean, I think it's possible to do it with Pittsburgh. I mean, because like I said, Pittsburgh, I think we both agreed. We both picked Jackson Powers Johnson to go there. Which, they desperately need help in that area. I mean, I think you can get him later on. I know he's linked to go to like Seattle at 16, but like
I have a hard time seeing him going 16.
16, yeah.
A round grade on him. That's why. And I like the guy. Listen, I like the player. Just I got a second round grade on him. Nothing against the guy. I don't want to take an interior offensive lineman in the first round unless I think he's going to be like Pro Bowl caliber day one. Keys would love it. But the guy Baltimore drafted, Lindenbaum, the Iowa center.
Yeah.
Like that's a first round player. Jackson Powers. Jackson Powers
Johnson. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like I said, I think trading up with Pittsburgh is definitely possible. I mean, because like you said, Detroit can go anyone. They can go cornerback. I mean, if you trade up, you could pretty much pick any of those positions at that pick. So, I mean, Pittsburgh's most likely going to go with.
The microphone was changing colors.
Oh yeah, it doesn't like. I bought it like a month or about 2 months, 3 months ago, whatever.
We're 2 hours into the show, and I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I had to adjust my computer because I got on when Keys was on.
So I'm all black in the background, and black's my favorite color, and I got black and Chiefs red. So like my chair,
Yeah.
It's
nice. Yeah.
It's not as nice as your microphone changing color 2 hours into the show, and I'm now this. So for those of you that think I'm on drugs, you get it almost looks like I got something in my coffee.
Yeah.
But I never noticed that either, Keys. Yes. And by the way, 140, this would be horrible because I've been mocking him to Kansas City at 32. This is a guy I'm very, very high on. If you're not familiar with him, Darius Robinson played defensive end at Missouri, but he's 6'5", 285. And he's an old school 5 tech that I think that can see. One thing about the NFL is that there's really not a 3-4 and a 4-3 anymore. And more teams, it kind of started with the Patriots when Belichick switched to a 4-3. It's positionless players on defense. You have guys that can do a variety of different things, and more NFL teams are adopting that philosophy. That's why Darius Robinson's a guy I really would love at 32 because I think he could be a defensive tackle. I think he'd play defensive end. I think on obvious run situations, he's your end. I think obvious passing situations, he's inside. And I really want him at 32. No, jump in, man.
So I mean, because my first mock, I had him. I see what you said earlier about how was it Fisk? You couldn't figure out what team.
Yeah, I had a hard time. Yeah.
See, I think his dude can go late first round, early second round. I just couldn't really find, like I said, like what team he would fit in the first round. Man, I think Baltimore is definitely a possibility. I mean, the Chiefs obviously is another team, but I had him going like in the very early in the second round. But I mean, he's definitely capable of going in the first round, depending on which team.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Wants him.
Yeah, we agree. We really like him. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like we're on the same page. We really like him. It's just we can't find a place to put him in the first round. Buffalo would make sense. Johnny Wilson. I'm just drawing a complete blank. Johnny Wilson. I'm just Keaton. I'm just drawing a blank here.
Johnny Wilson.
Are you? I when you said that. Are you talking Roman Wilson, the receiver out of Michigan? Because I'm drawing a blank on who Johnny Wilson is. Is he the Florida State receiver?
I think he's a Florida. It's saying he's a Florida State receiver. Yeah, wide receiver. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yeah. I don't. Okay. I don't like doing this. He's not a guy I'm very high on, and the reason why is that he played receiver at Florida State, and I don't think he can play receiver in the NFL. I think he's going to have to put on some weight and play tight end. And I know you guys like him a lot. I am on the opposite end of the spectrum because I think that he's a guy that can't play receiver in the pros. He's going to have to switch positions, and he's going to have to learn to put his hand in the ground. I wouldn't mind if a team like Kansas City grabs him in the third or fourth round and says, do some stuff. I don't see this at all. Not on the pro level. He cannot be a returner on the pro level. I didn't see that speed and athleticism. And because when I see this kid, I see a guy that has to play tight end in the pros. Keas mentioned him earlier, the receiver from Coastal Carolina who went to the Ravens. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know your name. Can't remember his name though.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about. Yeah,
play tight end, and he was a much better athlete than Johnny Wilson. So I'm not as high on him as you guys are in the chat because I see a guy that's going to have to put on some weight and learn how to block. And if you're a wide receiver, and then all of a sudden you got to learn how to block NFL outside linebackers. You have no experience doing it. It's a hard thing to do. So I'm not as high on him as you guys are, unfortunately, because I see a guy that's going to go third or fourth round who is going to have to fifth. Yeah, I honestly think he could go higher than fifth or sixth. I just think that he has to switch positions. I would love for him to go to somewhere like Kansas City and have an opportunity to be, a receiver, not really a tight end. So we'll find out. We're gonna find out. Perry likes Brian Thomas Jr. a lot too. In my mock draft, I keep having him free fall. Keaton does not. So I know Keaton likes him quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to transition a little bit because I know you mentioned earlier how you think he's going to go in the fourth round. A lot of people think the Patriots, for example, they take a quarterback, either Daniels. Let's say if they take Daniels, he's got to put on some weight too, because if he takes, because if he takes a hit, that could be. That's not good. And it's just a fit in New England. Some people don't think Daniels can handle that cold weather in New England. They think Drake May with this size, it's debatable. I mean, both quarterbacks are really good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Some people even think Drake May could even sit a year. I don't know. That's weird.
I do want to talk about that. I didn't want to throw Keas into this conversation because he hasn't done any videos on mock drafts. So I don't want to include him in the mock draft situation. Jaden Daniels has to put on what I call the NFL 20. And that's why I like him as the fourth quarterback off the board. I think McCarthy will get picked. By the way, if you watch any tape, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback. He deserved the Heisman. I like Daniels a lot more than McCarthy. I really do.
I agree.
I have a hard time seeing an NFL team going, hey, here's a team that ran the ball. Here's a team that didn't rely on the quarterback, but on the NFL level, we're going to rely on him. I don't see that happening. I wasn't very high on McCarthy coming out, but hey, look, when there's smoke, there's fire. And he did do very well at the combine, but I'm much higher on Daniels than I am on McCarthy. Okay, I just want to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I think whoever picks at 3, whether it's New England or Minnesota, is there a team that could trade up to 3 besides Minnesota? Do you think that there's a team out there that could do it legitimately? Because I think Denver would love to. I think the Raiders would love to as well.
I'm hearing that. So it's funny you mentioned that because I think the Giants are an interesting team because they just signed Daniel Jones to a long-term deal last year, but a lot of fans, like the fan base, aren't really sold with. I agree, but like I'm hearing a lot of like they could trade up with New England and take Jaden Daniels or maybe a JJ McCarthy at that pick. But like the only thing I have an issue with is like if you look at their offensive line, they were ranked towards the bottom of the league last year. They were like they could not protect. Like I'm worried about if Daniels or McCarthy goes behind the offensive line, like how much or how long are they going to last? Like I know a receiver like Malik Neighbors or a Roman Dunze is linked to go there, but like how much are they going to be willing to get the football? So like, I mean, the Giants need a lot. I mean, they do need playmakers, but I'm just like, I just don't know if Daniel Jones is that guy that could deliver them the football consistently.
No, I agree completely. I'm not. I had a guy hating on me last year because I wasn't all in on Daniel Jones, and I said, "Here's a guy threw for 3,000 yards, and it's his 4th NFL season. That's his best season.
Yeah,
that's not good enough." Andrew Thomas is coming back, and then you made a move. We were talking about her. Anyway, the Giants signed an offensive lineman on the right side. Remember, they drafted Evan Neal, who's been a bust so far, but I think he has potential. So you fixed up the offensive line. We both had neighbors going to the Giants. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or you had
yeah.
I think we both had neighbors. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but neither one of us agree that Daniel Jones is the guy. I will say this. I think whoever picks at 3 will take McCarthy, but I think whoever picks at 3 should definitely take Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels could have a lot of fun in the Patriots offense. Just, hey, look, you pick again at 36, get a solid player. They signed KJ Osborne, a player I like, not a number 1, but a player I like.
Yeah, I agree.
Fixed up the offensive line. I would love to see Jaden Daniels in New England, but I picked McCarthy because I really think that NFL teams like McCarthy over Daniels. But 10 years from now, I think that we're going to look at this as a big mistake, and Daniels is a better dude. He's got to put on some weight, and he's got to stay healthy, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So, yeah.
GB, I'm sorry. I'm going to go with GB because I'm going to butcher this name. I hope Telesco destroys the Raiders, how we passed on Kincaid and Flowers. The guy who you passed on was Brian Branch. I 100% believed that Brian Branch was going to be the pick. By the way, I am so glad to have a Chargers fan in the chat. I 100% believe Brian Branch should have been the pick for the Chargers. I saw no way he was going past the Chargers. And when the Chargers picked a wide receiver, I was floored by that. It was a big mistake. And I'm really curious, even though I know they got Telesco, I wonder who's going to have more player control, Telesco or Harbaugh. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It comes back with the level of anger I'm seeing from Giants fans of them getting linked to JJ McCarthy as a circus. It's entertaining. Seriously, I would. Here's real. What Justin
Field?
Yeah. Just got traded for a 6th-round pick. So what's the market for Daniel Jones? Coming off of an injury, what
that too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you're getting
I don't
nothing
know.
for a guy, so you'd have to eat a lot of money. So I mean, I'll
That's
be
why I
honest
think.
with you though.
uh,
I wouldn't hate it. Wait, I'm sorry, man. I cut you off, man.
I know you're good. No, I was just saying, like, I don't think there's much of a market for him. Like I said, I mean, he hasn't really done much in his 3-4 years he's been in the league, and then on top of him having an injury, like, I think it's best for the Giants to just. I don't think Jalen Jones has been given the requisite weapons to be successful, including the offensive line. Like, you got to surround this dude with pieces to be successful. I think, you just signed him to a big time contract last offseason. So, like, you have to, if no teams really want him, what do you do at that position? I mean, I don't think it makes sense to start over with a rookie quarterback and throw him in the wolves like that behind the bad old line. I think you just have to surround, in my opinion, what if you go offense tackle or wide receiver? I mean, you need to surround Daniel Jones with talent.
I agree. I agree completely. I even though I'm not sold on Jones, I think you got to give him a chance at least. And by the way, if it doesn't work, I think New York will clean. Well, I think they'll have a new head coach, and then they'll have with that head coach, they'll get a new quarterback probably through the draft, but it could be free agency. But yeah, I'll be honest. If you put a rookie quarterback back there for the Giants, I think that's just going to be a disaster. But I'm not at all sold on Daniel Jones at all.
Right.
I want to give you some credit here because even though I firmly believe Minnesota is going to trade up, it's just a question of where.
Mm-hmm.
And I think New England's the starting spot, and I think that the Chargers is the ending spot. So I think it's 3, 4, or 5. But I love in your mock draft, you get a corner at 11. It was Turian Arnold yeah, which I day one starter, I think an impact player, and then Penix at 23. I really like that because I am very, very high on Penix. So this is the question I want to ask because both of us think that he's going to go into the first round.
Yeah.
If he didn't have any injury issues, how high in this draft is he going?
Ooh, that's interesting, man. See, if he never had those injuries, I mean, I don't see how he doesn't go in the top 5. I mean, because given like his
number 2, would you put him over May?
It's tough. I don't know. Put him over May. I mean, like. May, okay, like, so it's funny because May had throughout, I think he played 3 years in college, right? I think it's 3 years.
Two,
right?
I think two, I think 2, but maybe 3. Okay. I know he's a redshirt sophomore. But,
okay.
I want to, no, you know what? It's only been 2 because, okay. Okay, I'm trying to remember because he replaced Sam Howell and he replaced Sam Howell immediately, but I don't remember if Howell's been in the league for this is year 3. So I'm going to say Drake May has been here for 3, but I know he's a redshirt sophomore. So
yeah, I just remember because 2020. I remember the 2022 season. May was outstanding throughout that whole year, and then he had a little bit of a down. Not say he had a down year in 2023, but like his stats kind of took a hit a little bit because I think they had different like coordinators or whatever. But Penix, like I said, if he didn't have those injuries, I would definitely think he would go top 5. If not, maybe he would beat out Drake May. I mean, there's an argument. I mean, he has an arm. I mean, he can pretty much do anything with the football if he's in the right situation. That's why I think. I mean, yeah. I mean, if he's in the right situation with the right offensive line, I think he could flourish. Like I say, given what he's done in college. So yeah, I
had to look this up. He was a 2-year starting experience and 2-time team captain. So if you're just going off the last 2 years and everything's the same, and you're looking at Drake May over the last 2 years, or you're looking at Penix over the last 2 years, I didn't get a chance. By the way, I watched Penix play quite a bit. I actually remember him playing at Indiana and doing some amazing things as well. And I was impressed with him at Indiana. So it's not really fair because I didn't watch Drake May play very much. I just seen more. I haven't watched a game. I watched highlights, which is
highlights,
fair. Yeah. So it's not really, it's like apples and oranges where I watched games of Penix and I fell in love with the kid. I think Penix is better than May if I was just going off the last 2 years only, just the last 2 years, because I think Penix's arm is maybe better. I think the decision making is unquestionably better, but those wow moments that May has, the ceiling's off the chart. But yeah, but
that's why I think like him in Miami would be nice. Like,
yeah,
I mean, because like think about it, like if Miami hasn't, like if they think Tua is their franchise guy, they would have gave, in my opinion, they would have gave him that contract now. The fact that it's still dragging, I wonder if they're like, I really wonder what they're gonna. I mean, I know they're linked to get offensive tackle, but I'm wondering if they're linking to get Penix, because I know some people have Penix going to Miami. I was like, that's an interesting situation. And you got Tyreek Hill and all those guys already on that receiving. Like Tua, the way he throws the football, he throws it pretty well, but like there's times where Tyreek Hill has to like turn back and catch the football instead of like catching in stride. I think Penix with his arm, I think he can lead the receiver without having them to turn back around and try to, readjust to the football.
Oh, I agree completely. I have a Dolphins YouTuber, Pete Takes. He came on a couple times. He asked me to come on. He's like, "Hey man, can you come into this chat?" Because he's been saying for a long time that they should move on from Tua, and I thought that this offseason, what they're going to do one of two things: they're going to sign everybody, and then when they let Wilkins go, I was floored. That didn't make any sense to me at all, because I'm a big Christian Wilkins fan, and nobody wanted to see him in Vegas. That was a bunch of bullshit. But
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, you're going all in on Tua. You're going to give him that big deal. But if I'm Miami and Penix is available, that's what I would do, and then use the rest of that money to build up that team. But since you let Wilkins go, I don't think they're going to do it. But when you had your mock draft about Penix going 23, I'm like, God, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you can. I mean, I know because like I know you said like him to the Broncos. Like, I mean, because they need a quarterback. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad. I'm just talking about in terms of the fit. I think if they do choose quarterback with the 12th pick, I think they go Bo Nix. I think with him and Sean Payton would just them together. I think makes more sense. But like, you can make an argument. You can get Nix in the second round as well. Like,
that's the problem. Denver doesn't have a second round pick. That's why if Denver takes a quarterback, I think they either got to do it at 12 or they have to find a trading partner. But what team in the NFL draft could take Penix? And I think if you're Minnesota and you don't take him at 11 and you're there at 23, I think you can trade down, but you have the magic spot's 23 is kind of where I'm thinking. So if you're Denver and Penix is available, do you pull the trigger at 12 because you're not going to be able to get a guy in the third round? What I had in my mock draft was Minnesota trading up to 5. And by the way, GB, do check out my mock draft because I think Minnesota. I'm firmly convinced the Chargers are not picking at 5. I 100% believe that they're not.
I think they'll trade back too.
Yeah,
something they would do. Plus, they have more. I mean, if like I said earlier, if they choose Browers, I think they'll get it. I think you could trade back and still get him at the middle of the first round. I mean, he's linked to drop too. So
TV brings up something great. He says you could talk. What about Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5? So if you trade down, I have them going offensive and defensive line. If you trade down, but you could trade down and go outside in and get a receiver, and you could get a corner. Because when I was thinking about what the Chargers would do, I had offensive linemen at 11, and then at 23, I was thinking corner because Cooper DeJean would I think would fit in perfect. If Nate Wiggins is available, we both have him going to Philly. I think that's because they need a second. They need a corner really bad.
Yeah,
so
desperately.
Maybe they trade back at 7, 8 for a Duze or maybe Old. I seriously think they could. And by the way, Perry says that first, second round pick at 33. Yeah, it will be. Carolina picks 33 and 39, and Carolina has a really good chance in this draft to get better. But they
they need receivers bad. They need receivers desperately too. The Panthers.
That's why if Brian Thomas Jr. starts to slide. And that's why I mocked a trade with Buffalo, because I could see Buffalo looking at Brian Thomas Jr. and going, do we pull the trigger at 28 or do we trade with Carolina? And I could see Carolina at 26 with Tampa Bay, 27 with Arizona, and 28 at Buffalo. If a receiver like Brian Thomas Jr. slides, I could see Carolina desperately getting a guy. But yeah, Carolina could end up doing that. But I have no right to microscope everything. Yeah, it's going to be a new regime, so we have no idea what they're going to do. My thought process is that they're going to trade down at 5. I just don't know. But I think if New England stays at 3 and if Arizona stays at 4, Minnesota moves up to 5. But it's got to be the quarterback that they want. And when there's smoke, there's fire. So I think McCarthy, if he's available, will be the pick. But when I look at Minnesota, I think Jaden Daniels would fit in. You put Jaden Daniels on the Vikings team this year and you sign Justin Jefferson, that team can make the playoffs.
Oh, easily. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though I think McCarthy is the guy they're looking at, if I'm a Vikings fan, I want Jaden Daniels over McCarthy, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. To me, that's a no-brainer.
Definitely.
Yeah, I could see if Minnesota trades up and they get Jaden Daniels, even though he's a rookie, I think that's a team that can win 9 to 10 games and get a wild card. Are they as good as Detroit? Probably not. Are they as good as Green Bay? Probably not. But I'm not sold on Green Bay yet. So yeah,
we'll see.
Chargers need they need some picks here. And so here's the deal. Daniels will take time to develop. I say that about every rookie quarterback, but in Minnesota, look what they did with those backup quarterbacks. They were able to put them in position to succeed. It's a run-first offense. You got Justin Jefferson, who's going to come back completely healthy. You have a good defense. You have a quarterback-friendly system, so you're not going to run this very complicated offense. You're just going to do what, by the way, Kevin O'Connell did several times this year, where you put in a new quarterback and put him in a position to succeed. And I think that Jaden Daniels just has more tools to succeed right now, right away, than J.J. McCarthy. Nothing against McCarthy. It's just Daniels. Yeah. You put him in a situation like New England that has some holes at receiver and it has more holes at offensive line, but we'll see. Maybe it's a little different, but
yeah. I'm also hearing a lot of Drake May going there too to Minnesota, because some people think Jaden Daniels is going to go to the Commanders with that number. But I mean, I can see that too.
I personally think that May is the number 2 quarterback on everybody's board. But if I'm Washington, I would you interview both and you have to take a look at which one. But I mean, I like Jaden Daniels quite a bit, but I think May's quarterback number 2. With the first pick, Carolina selects MHJ. With the 33rd pick, Carolina selects Michael Penix.
Man, that would be crazy if they. I mean, see, that's funny too, because Carolina. What pick were they? Who owns Carolina's pick? Is it? It's the Bears, right?
Yeah,
Chicago. Yeah. That's crazy. Huh? Could you imagine if Carolina was in that? That'd be crazy.
Yeah, and I think that Carolina's actually not in a terrible situation, but they lost like their top 4 or 5 defensive players. But at 33 and 39, to be honest with you, what I would do is I would say, look, you got your quarterback at number 1. You gave up a king's ransom for him. Get him some fucking help. Literally. In 39 and get him some help. Who's the best receiver that's available at 33? I got both Texas receivers available. I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name, not the one who ran 4.21, the other one.
You got Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I would take Worthy. I wouldn't even think twice about it. And then you go ahead at 39. You could go offensive line.
desperately.
The tight end out of Texas, get both Texas players, get both Texas receivers. Fuck, take one at 33, take the other one at 39, and just do what you can. GB has a great question here. Keaton here. What can you say about the quietest team this offseason in them Cowboys?
Quietest offseason. Yeah, because they haven't really done much. They lost some player. I'm trying to think who they lost.
They lost Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith, yeah. And then
they ended up making a quiet signing that I really like. They signed Eric Hendricks, who was going to sign with San Francisco. He reunites with Zimmer because Vander Esch is retiring. But I've always liked Hendricks. I don't think he's a superstar, but I mean he's very solid. Yeah. He's going to be perfect for that team. So
yeah.
But I'm sorry for words in your mouth, man.
Nah, you're good. I was just but let's see, quietest off season Cowboys. I mean, I think it reminds me they think themselves that they're Super Bowl contenders. Like if they haven't made really any moves, if that pretty much says like, okay, like the last 3-4 years they've won 12 games and we've come up short in the playoffs. So I mean, I don't think they got better, in my opinion. I mean, you saw last year's playoffs. I mean, Green Bay, Jordan Love had a field day against that defense. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you could look at their draft positioning, like, okay, they could go offense tackle, but like, I mean, their defense, that played pretty well during the regular season. Just where was that in the playoffs against Green Bay? I mean, you could honestly look at corner too, because, Stephon Gilmore, who was normally their starter, he's getting up there in age. You need to get younger on that side. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know what direction the Cowboys go. I know for me, from what I've seen, obviously I'm not a Cowboys fan, but just watching them, they're a regular season team. We already know what they are when it comes to the playoffs. Like, they don't do anything. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so GB, watch my video because I have them making a big splash trade with Denver, and Sean Payton, of course, started his coaching career in Dallas, and he was rumored to be the Cowboys coach for a long time. I have them making a trade, and Dallas at 12 takes a tackle, and they just say, hey, look, we're going to be okay on defense. Let's just have this great offense. And I have them taking JC Latham, who I would be plug and play on the right side. He may not be the guy the Cowboys want. Maybe the Cowboys want Mims, Guyton. Nick Saban, Jerry Jones have a great relationship. I don't like guys that play right tackle in college to switch over to the left side. So to me, Latham makes a lot of sense in Dallas.
Dallas, yeah. Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, here's the thing, GB. They have some players coming back from injury. They got Zimmer as their defensive coordinator. I think they're going to make a big move in the draft. It may not be for a tackle, but I think that they're looking at this team and they're saying, hey, look, we're fine. We're going to add in the draft because we're going to add cheap. And that's what I think that they're going to do. But I think the Cowboys are still very dangerous. It's just, I'm expecting something fun in the draft.
Yeah. We'll see.
Xavier Legette could be 33.
Ooh.
And yeah, you're right. So in my 2-round mock, I had him sliding. I forget, I deleted it, so I forget exactly which pick it was. 50. So I had him sliding all the way to 50 where Philly picks. Philly picks 50 and 53. And the only reason I picked him at Philly at 50 is not because Philly needs a receiver. I looked at my board. I was like, this is the best player. And Pittsburgh picks at 51, so I could see him landing at Pittsburgh. I didn't want to have Legette go. By the way, Legette, most drafts would go somewhere between 25 and 40. I have him sliding just because there's a surplus at receiver. But Legette could be easily 33.
33, yeah. I could see him going to New England too. If New England trades back with Minnesota, I know if they do that, they're going to definitely take a receiver. I'm not saying he's going to go 11. I think we'll pick maybe Roman Dunze, maybe add him in the second round 34. I mean, I can see that happening, but I mean, he's definitely a receiver that, he's makes 50-50 catches. I mean, Panthers, that would be a good fit for him, in my opinion. You can't go wrong with going him or Xavier Worthy. I mean, they're both two phenomenal receivers.
I'm looking at the draft here, and Leggett, if he does fall in the second round, which I think he will, not because he's not a second round player, just there's a surplus of receivers. Carolina at 33, New England at 34. I have Arizona taking a receiver at 4, but let's just say they go offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And 27, they want to do the defense. Or they just say, fuck it, we're going to get Roma Duze or Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. We'll get Leggett at 33. Just, hey, let's just give Kyler Murray everybody. Why not? They got 7 draft picks in the first 104. They got 3 third-round draft picks. Give them a receiver. Washington at 36. Let's say they draft a quarterback at 2, which I think everybody thinks that they're going to do. They pick again at 36 and 40. Why not Leggett? Why not?
Yeah. I mean, you got to surround your rookie. I mean, like I said, the offensive line is important, but you got to put some weapons on the outside for that rookie quarterback. I think that makes sense.
And who picks at 37? The Chargers. So if they do what I say and go offensive and defensive line, if they make the trade, or let's just say they stay at 5 and take offensive line, Leggett at 37 makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
The next pick after that, Tennessee at 38. He's been mocked as A.J. Brown. That makes a lot of sense. And then you're looking at Carolina at 39. So even though I had Leggett going all the way to Philly, I just made a strong case that he goes in the 30s pretty easy. And I'm a big fan of his. He's built like a running back. He ran faster than I thought he would. Yeah. What do you think about the report that the Chargers rejected next year's 3rd-round pick from the Vikings? I think it was for Keenan Allen instead of opting for this year's 4th rounder from the Bears. The Chargers have made a lot of mistakes, and that's why they got a new regime. That's my opinion. Keaton, man, what's your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, you're not lying. You're definitely not lying there. They definitely made some questionable decisions that set them back a little bit. Now they're here. They are in a potential I don't even know if it's a rebuild I don't know.
I'm not really sure either. Chargers are just going to be fun. I mean, there's so many teams I'm looking at that's like I can't wait for the draft, and I will be live for the draft. I don't know if Keaton, are you going live for the draft or?
I want to go. I'm probably going to do something with that. I'm probably definitely going to go live, and I'll definitely do something for that. Because I've been wanting to go live here. I mean, I definitely want to go live for the draft and then going into the next season for sure. Definitely do that.
Listen, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to be live for the whole first round. And if you don't do something, you can come on for like an hour. You can come on for 10 minutes. So you have a guest spot available. I know Gooch, he's been chomping at the bit. He wants to come on. Last year, I had a buddy of mine. He came over to my place. He's not going to fly out to Vegas, but he came over to my place. We did the draft show together. We had Luke G from the Luke G Field Review. He popped in late, so I'm pretty excited. But if you don't do anything, please come visit, and I'm going to be live for the whole first round of the draft. I'm going to wrap up here in next couple minutes here. My throat's starting to get sore here, and I know I'm on the West Coast, so it's early for me. You're on the East Coast. It's late for you. I know you got some parties you got to get to. So GB says we are still the second best team in that division.
Who's talking about that?
He's a Chargers fan.
Oh, Chargers. Okay.
I really want to see. Because Denver's kind of falling apart. I like what the Raiders are doing, but no quarterback means.
Yeah, they don't. I agree. Obviously the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're still the team to beat in that division. I do agree the Chargers are the second best team, even though they're still trying to put pieces together. The Raiders. I like the coach. Antonio Pierce is a great coach. I'm happy that he got the extension, but we don't know what their identity. I don't know what they want to do as a team, what their identity is, and then the Broncos are in a complete rebuild. So I mean,
I really want to see what these guys do in the draft, because it wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys makes a move for a quarterback, a veteran quarterback.
yeah,
Besides Minshew, I know Minshew's with the Raiders. I don't think he's the Raiders' long-term plan.
nah.
So I really want to see what they do at the draft. I can't answer that right now, but I am. The one thing I will say about the Chargers, I'm very impressed that you kept both Bosa and Mack on the defensive side of the ball. I was very, very impressed about that.
That was big.
And yeah, you'll fix the right tackle in the draft. And Tim Tebow's still there.
Tim Tebow days. I remember.
Oh God, I love the Tim Tebow days.
I remember that. You remember that play? He what was it in the wild card against the Steelers?
Mm-hmm.
He threw that slant. That was crazy.
It was the only time I ever cheered for Denver. Is he had that 5-week stretch where every single game was the same thing. He'd go like 3 for 15. He'd look like the worst player in the world, but they'd be down by 5 with 2 minutes left, and he'd do something to orchestrate a victory, and it was a lot of fun to watch. What a great guy. Arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time. I don't have him as number one, but it's a debate. I'm gonna wrap this up here, but before I get off the air here, man, final thoughts, words, questions, comments, anything at all, man. The floor is yours.
Oh, yeah, he's asking, do you think Mike Tomlin will ever lead the Steelers? I don't see it. I don't see it. It's hard to get rid of him because, like I said, he's never had a losing season. I mean, what other coach are you going to be able to bring in and
there was talk about him retiring, and
I saw that.
And I think that when you hear something like that, I think when there's smoke, there's fire. It wouldn't surprise me if he retires in the next couple of years. I mean, being an NFL head coach is tough, but I don't think the Steelers will fire him unless he wins. By the way, as of right now, I have the Steelers as the worst team in AFC North. I do
right now. Really?
Right now, yeah, I have them 4th because I think the Bengals will make a big rebound, but I don't follow basketball, so I know Spoelstra's the Heat head coach, and are there some red pill? I don't want to go on a rant here, but is it a good reference? I
mean, that's good. I agree. I mean, because I watch a lot of NBA. I mean, like Spoelstra is like, if you look at the Heat last year, they made the finals. Everyone said that's a fluke, but like Mike Tomlin, Heat were in the finals. They lost to the Nuggets last year in 5 games.
I don't follow. The only thing I know about Spoelstra, which is awesome, is when he had LeBron there, his girlfriend was a former Miami Heat cheerleader, but she had to quit because you can't be a cheerleader and date a player or the coach. So so she had to quit, and then he married her. And she did what I don't. This is the rant. It's going to cut short. But a lot of women, what they do is they marry somebody wealthy. They get divorced. They get half, right? So she filed for divorce, but after divorce was final, that's when Spoelstra got his contract extension and a lot of money from the Heat. So the Heat kind of worked with Spoelstra to hey, we'll wait till your divorce is final, then we'll give you a bunch of money. So she couldn't get half of it. And,
right.
There was something that she was furious with the Heat and was threatening to sue. And they're like, hey, we can pay him whenever we want, and there was nothing she can do about it. But anyway, rant over here. If you're a wealthy dude, be careful out there. There's women that marry you just for the money. For me, it's just incredible good looks. So that's all I have to offer because I'm broke right now. But hopefully it changes. But that's a good one. I don't know anything about basketball, but Keaton does. So, man, any other final words, thoughts, comments, suggestions, anything at all?
Not really. I mean, like I said, thank you for having me on as well. It's definitely a fun episode here. You guys know I put out a video. Check that out. Obviously, subscribe to Keaton Talk Sports. I'll do the same to Dan. He has a lot of good things going on his YouTube channel as well. So I'm just saying, I'm just excited for the draft. Man, April 25th couldn't come any faster. Honestly, I can't wait to see what happens in the draft.
Are you with? Okay, probably just. I'll take the draft over Christmas anytime.
Oh,
this is the best time of the year.
This is the best time, and that's the thing too. It's like
Yeah.
just putting out content like doing these mocks has been honestly really, really fun. Like I just enjoy just switching things up and going on, collabing with you and other YouTube channels and stuff. It's definitely been fun just to see people put their takes out there. So a lot of good things ahead.
And when I had my mock draft ready to go, and then Pittsburgh trades Fields to the Steelers.
That's funny because I just found out too. I was like, dang, he actually traded. That's wild.
I was done with my video, and I was like, let me just see what's going on. And I just had to okay, well, I want to start over from scratch. And
yeah.
One other question before I let you go. Are your you released your mock Monday? Are your mocks coming out Monday, Wednesday? Do you have a time that we can let everybody know when to expect your latest mock draft? Because your last is a good one.
Yeah, I'll probably do every month. I mean, most people, I probably just do every Monday, just going forward, just having a video out talking about it and then making another one, just having just being consistent, putting out on Monday. So I'll probably have it out every Monday going up until the draft.
Yeah,
so.
I've been calling it Mock Draft Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to have mine out on Monday. And I say try because it's been crazy out here, but I'm fully expecting. So both of us have dueling. So Monday follow both our mock drafts, and GB ends it with, I'm kind of happy since the Spanos are taking this situation seriously. Finally, Spanos are the owners of the Chargers, and yeah, you're right. I like what they've done. So that's it, guys. I will be back Friday. Don't forget, subscribe to Keaton Talk Sports. Check out his mock draft. It's in the description below. So is mine. Watch mine. I'll see everybody back on Friday.